The world is getting crazier. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy. You are listening to Canary Crime News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Cry News Talk, episode number 622. It is May 10th of 2023. We are live to tape. My name is Gonz, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ. I'm a filmmaker, made the Age of Deceit films, and ran a thing called Face Like the Sun here in California, bringing you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ, while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded take on world events. And just to address the issue right from the top here, I am solo this episode, and Basil is missing. And the update on what has happened to Basil is that he sent me a message last night telling me that he is getting his appendix out. So, first off, let's call the producers.
Producers, assemble!
I don't know the details. He won't tell me details. I'm trying to learn, but I think he's in a bit of a situation. So pray for Basil's health. We will hold down the fort here, and we are obviously live all over the place. Rockfin. Actually, let me double check Rockfin here. Yep, Rockfin, Rumble, YouTube. We're live on Twitter as well, and DLive, and Twitch. For those of you who found the Twitch channel that we supposedly restarted. So there you go. That's the situation we're in right now. And for those of you watching, if you're familiar with the visuals of the show, you may have noticed that it looks a little different as well. I'm just trying to change things around a little bit. We'll see if this gives you outrage, if you're triggered by the different visual effects going on, then please message Basil and let him know that Gonz is brought disturbance to the Canarium, has brought chaos, and we need Basil back soon to restore order. Because, when I'm here, it's just one big Gonz party. Now, first off, before we dive into anything, Basil, hope you're feeling okay, buddy. Hope everything's fine. We're all going to be pulling for you, praying for you. But I was a little disturbed. The hijacking of the Basil brand continues. I found this on Etsy. Now, it's entirely possible that somebody who listens to the show made this, and maybe we've addressed this in the past. I don't know how long it's been on the market, but there's an Etsy link at the top of the show notes here with the googly eye funny vinyl decal sticker skin fits Oculus Quest Rift, and it's literally a VR headset and a sticker that you can put on of googly eyes. And, at a certain point, it's a direct lifting, a stealing of the brand. Is it not the look of Basil, his trademark look? I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to see. Maybe that's why they're putting him in surgery. They want to get more data from this alleged man who has got googly eyes on the internet. But anyway, yeah, just finding more of these things where the googly eye and VR combo is becoming more common. And actually, this particular vinyl decal, you can get different kinds of eyes. You can get like a lady's eyes or some other, characters or whatnot. So, whatever. It's just a thing, I guess. But we're going to just go on with the show here and start with a disclaimer.
It's time for a disclaimer.
Now listen up, YouTube.
That's right. And just for all the content moderators and censorship managers out there, be they robots or humans, everything you hear on this show comes directly from the mainstream corporate news media. We do not claim to be experts on healthcare, geopolitics, military strategy, corporate law, or the moral and ethical implications of any of these topics, nor do we implicitly or explicitly support or subscribe to any sources or narratives containing misinformation, disinformation, or malinformation, as defined by the Department of Homeland Security. We're good boys. All right, YouTube, we're good boys.
And in honor of Basil, we will do a rundown.
Oh, look, here's Basil.
Let me bring you up to speed.
All right, we're going to start off with China developing brain chips that let monkeys control robotic arms. It's going to be a super combo FLIPPY update just right at the top of the show here. And then we'll get into a whole bunch of other stuff, like, for example, the Chinese takeover. We're going to go through a few articles here looking at a sort of Cold War, World War III. It's already happening. It's unfolding before us, and we'll cover how it's been happening. Of course, Tutor.com and Princeton Review being owned by a Chinese company. Not looking good. Kissinger has a take on the Chinese involvement. A new study about migration from China to the Americas, I think, is something to pay attention to. This sort of new way to destroy the United States based on genetic history, and we'll talk about that as well. On DNA testing, it has a lot to do with the reparation stuff we'll touch on. Taiwan, we'll look at Taiwan, what's going on there. There's some implications and some reporting going on with the drama there, where Liz Truss is going to head to Taiwan to give a speech. A little quick thing about Russia, an ex-Russian space boss saying that there's no proof we went to the moon. That's fun. And then we'll look at AI, how it's shaping the metaverse according to the World Economic Forum. Of course, they're going to lead the way. They're going to lead us right into the metaverse. Thanks, World Economic Forum. In the meantime, we have Mark Zuckerberg. I got Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg mixed up. Mark Zuckerberg is a champion. He's a Jujitsu champion. Then we'll talk about the trans issue. We'll touch on it. We've been, talking about it for a while. We'll have some news, some science, and then we will end it with some VR smell-o-vision and poop pills. So there you go. That's going to be the show. Again, doing it solo, doing it a little bit of a different format here, but bear with me again. If you hate it, then please just let Basil know, and it will aid his recovery to join us as soon as he gets healthy enough to do so. All right, so let's get on with the opening topic here.
Mind control weapons.
Chinese show!
FLIPPY update.
Do you want fries with that?
There's a lot going on. And in addition to all of that, which is mind control, Chinese news, and FLIPPY, we're talking about monkeys as well. DailyMail.co.uk, and yeah, we've been trying to move away from Daily Mail, but they just keep bringing the spicy headlines. China develops brain chip that lets monkeys control robotic arm with their minds. All caps. All right, let's see what it says here. Chinese scientists claim to have designed a brain implant that allows a monkey to control a robotic arm using just its mind. Isn't this old news? Man, they're making it sound like, oh, the great China, their breakthrough and all this stuff. Didn't we do this like 30 years ago? Anyway, I guess them catching up to the U.S. is a threat in itself. But let's continue here. Researchers at Nankai University shared the announcement on May 5th, praising it as a breakthrough that will improve the lives of people with disabilities. The brain computer transforms EEG signals into the animal's control instructions to navigate the machine with food attached. The research has not been peer-reviewed, and the claims, which cannot be verified independently, are only available in a statement on the university's website. There is a video that was posted by the Chinese, what is this? I forget what there's an outlet, their big outlet, the South China Morning Post, I believe. And it shows it's kind of a music video thing where they're showing what's going on. They're looking at the monkeys. The monkey's strapped down. He's clearly controlling this robotic arm with a piece of food on it with his brain, and he's bringing the food to his mouth. So there you go. And they show sort of graphics on what's going on and how it's integrated and how it will help people with disabilities, which is always the way all this stuff is framed. But interesting that it's controlling a robotic arm with your brain, which which is sort of the bleeding edge of this type of integration. As we enter the transhuman era, we're going to continue to see research like this more publicly. And I suppose, since we're being pushed into some kind of war with China narrative here, it makes sense that let all the bad ethical stuff, let the Chinese be the ones to get the headlines about it, right? I mean, we've had Elon Musk with some of his monkey stuff, which brought ethical issues up. I think there were people from PETA-like organizations. I don't know if it was PETA specifically, but organizations like it saying like, hey, this is violating, the rights of monkeys and stuff. So since China doesn't have the same type of cultural foundation for ethics when it comes to this type of thing, let them take all that, let them do it, obviously, and then let them take the headlines. And then it's like, well, China let the cat out of the bag, so we better hook up a lot of those monkeys just to keep up. That's kind of how this whole thing, I feel we are being led into. So I did find the original article here from Nankai University itself. It was in Chinese, and I had to translate it over here to English. Just a little bit on that. The first case in the world, which again, I don't think this is the first, but okay. The Nankai team took the lead in completing the non-human primate test of the intervention brain interface. And this is translated from Chinese, so maybe there's a little bit of things missed or lost. But May 4th, the world's first non-human primate intervention brain-machine interface test was successful in Beijing. The test implemented an interventional brain interface brain-controlled robotic arm in the monkey brain, which is of great significance to promote research in the field of brain science. It marks that my country's brain-computer interface technology is among the leading international ranks. Okay, all right. So I think something's lost in translation. But again, yes, they completed this. There's not any kind of ethical problem here. Oh boy, there's some low-hanging fruit here. The innervation operation of this test was performed by the team of Dr. Wu Dongdong. Man, it's so bad. I'm not supposed to laugh at that, but am I allowed to? I'm Asian. I'm not Chinese, though. Yeah, I mean, I'm just perpetuating the interracial national war, I guess. I'm sorry. Okay, I will not laugh. Dr. Wu Dongdong, a neurosurgery team at the First Medical Center of the Hospital or General Hospital of the People's Liberation Army, the interventional electrocephaloid sensor enters the... Oh, boy. Okay, well, I'm going to stop reading right there because, this brain interface starts at the excreting organs. And it moves upwards into the brain. It goes up the spinal column. So, this isn't just like, hey, we got your brain. This is, hey, we got you top to bottom. Bottom to top, however you want to call it. So there you go. This is where we're at, folks, with all the monkey business. And again, in the honor of FLIPPY, the robot arm becoming a central sort of, the measuring device, literally, quite literally, to see whether this technology works. And this poor monkey is strapped down in this cage, and he's clearly got wires going in places they would rather not have wires going. But for the sake of science and to help people with disabilities, we must put this monkey through this torture. And we've long known that there are brain signals that can be converted into some kind of computer signal, digital signal, that can then control robot arms or a mouse on a screen or anything. So, this isn't really a breakthrough other than it's becoming public, I suppose. and in the context of the, hey, China's unethical, look at what they're doing, they're bad, evil country, that narrative, this helps along as well. So there you go. That's our little hook. Do some more digging if you want to, but I think we get the point here. And I wonder what Elon Musk's footprint on Neuralink in terms of development of parts and stuff like that, what connections he might have with China. And what if they're showing this with monkeys, obviously they're planning to use it on humans. That's the idea. That's the goal here. So it's almost doing two things. One, in the Trojan horse type of way of telling everybody it's to help the disabled, you're advancing this technology very rapidly. You're showing public examples of how this might work with a non-human primate, and you're gaining public awareness and acceptance. But at the same time, there is, in that context, the CCP and whatever other governing bodies that, are planning to use this have the ethical and moral prerogative, maybe, if it's helping people, if it's not just helping the disabled, but, advancing humanity in a certain way, then they're incentivized to create a population that is more susceptible to disabilities, whether it be, the virus or the antidote to the virus, or allegedly, or whatever, whatever it may be, the food, all the stuff, the gene edited everything, food, plants. It all makes sense. It's like, okay, well, yeah, you want a population that's weakened and, worn down mentally, physically, psychologically, everything else, spiritually. And then you're able to say, hey, we have a solution for you. So anyway, it's an ongoing thing here, and we'll continue to see this happen. I'm not, it's funny because we haven't seen anything where these monkeys escape. They're not like strong. Once they become strong, then it's Planet of the Apes. Once they figure out how to use the flippy arm to break through glass, and go after some of the technicians or something. But those are just dystopian, too much sci-fi, right? Too much sci-fi. None of that is taking place. But hey, monkey feeding himself with a giant robot arm, that's happening in China. All right, let's continue on here. It is at least in California, it's a little bit gloomy. It's a Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, my dudes. Wednesday.
Hey guys,
Wednesday.
what day it is? It's Wednesday. Time for the Canary Cry News Sucker. Yeehaw!
Wednesday, my dudes. It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Yes, it is Wednesday. And again, for those of you who may have not have been with us from the top here, Basil is getting a little procedure. All I know is he's getting his appendix taken out, which suggests that he was having some issues, and it supposedly all came very quickly. I've only gotten one message from him in the last, 24 hours or so, maybe less. Actually, less than that. But yeah, I'm trying to get more, but he might be under the knife as we speak. So again, pray for Basil. And it's kind of funny because he messaged me that, and I was like, oh, all right, so you're going to be late. You're going to be late to the show probably? Or, what's going on? And then I was like, wait a minute. Let me read that again. Okay, he's getting his appendix out. He's mentioning hospitals. I'm like, all right, let me just double check on the level of severity of getting your appendix removed. And it was like, oh, you're down for a few days. I was like, you're not going to be here today. I was like, hey, why don't you just log in from wherever you are, man? Right on the, just stay awake. Let the anesthetics take hold. Play by play. That'd be great. You'd be the first. Well, maybe not the first. I would say the first. Well, you'd definitely be the first googly-eyed VR headset man doing live reporting of a surgery being performed on himself on a podcast. But, he's going old-fashioned with this. But in any case, it's just something to keep in mind as we move forward here. Basil is a bit of a health thing, but he should be back soon, strong and powerful. And in the meantime, you're stuck with me rambling on my own, which is always scary, especially for Basil. I think there's more anxiety for him knowing he's helpless, that he can't step in and stop me from saying something outrageous that might get us in trouble. Well, it's okay. I'll do my best. Okay. We do operate on value for value, which means we don't take any ad money, and my keyboard buttons are falling off. That's good. That's always a good sign when you're trying to podcast and buttons are falling all over the place. Okay, so good. We're going to thank some executive producers who have come in to support the show next level.
Executive producers.
Once again, we operate value for value, which means all the content is always free and always available. And if you get value out of that, or not just out of that, but out of the content, then we're just asking you to provide value back in your way, whatever it may be, with your time, talent, or treasure. And there are some who step up and provide a level of treasure that keeps us going that we are extremely grateful for. And really, it's a huge blessing. And by the way, some of the, as some of you listeners may know, I'm moving, and I'm not moving out of California, unfortunately, I guess, the way things are happening and unfolding. But it's an opportunity to live in an actual house with an actual backyard and stuff instead of an apartment situation. So taking the opportunity to do that, which means the office is moving, and I'll document some of the space I get. I'm getting the third car garage area. It's walled off. It's just an empty little, 9-foot by 15-foot room right now. It's got some limitations, but I'm going to try to put something nice together. And that's partly why, for those of you just watching or seeing the podcast, I guess, there's a new format and layout on the screen, and we'll hopefully tap into some of that as we move forward. And that's the reason why I want to just, have a little refresh of everything, as we move forward. We have been doing this for 600 and some odd episodes. And, it's because of the supporters that we're able to keep going. And actually, what I was going to get to was the move itself, like parts of the move that are required, in terms of carrying things and the cost of it. It's because of the producers we're even able to do it. So my wife, my kids, everybody, we are extremely grateful for all the supporters who have come in. It really does make a huge difference. And it's making life possible for us, which is a blessing that I never thought I would get, and especially starting all this stuff, 10, 11 years ago. So we really appreciate it. Thank you very much. We will continue to work hard to provide the biblical worldview on, a lot of the stuff going on in the world, which is nonsensical and crazy and deceptive and all madness. All right. So yes, we do have some executive producers to thank here, and we're going to start off with Gravemind. Uh-oh. Where's my thing? Here we go. Gravemind. There it is. Gravemind. Thank you very much. Gravemind came in with $100.69. I wonder if Gravemind is into the crypto meme world, because 69, 420, those are big numbers in the crypto world. He has a note here. Hey guys, just wanted to say thank you for being my favorite podcast and always keeping a good attitude with all the bad news. It is Wednesday, my dudes.
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Gravemind. Thank you very much, Gravemind. We appreciate it. Executive producer for episode 622.
Where'd you find this?
But Gravemind is not alone. Gravemind had a partner in executive producership, and that is, it is Spiritually Minded. Spiritually Minded. Thank you very much. Coming in with, these are always confused. I can understand Basil's pain here sometimes. The way it comes in, it's like, wait a minute, which number is the correct number? But it's a little over $100. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. We have a note. Thanks, guys, for all you do. I pray this money multiplies for you. Super crazy days we're living in right now, but God is good, so it's also kind of exciting. I would agree. Much love and many blessings to you both. Jules, a.k.a. Spiritually Minded. Thank you very much, Spiritually Minded.
Where'd you find this?
Yeah, so I would agree. It is crazy, but it's also a blessing to be in this time because you got to admit, at least looking at the headlines of what's happening in the world, that allegedly happening, what we're being told is happening, there is no other time in history other than the days of mythology. The ancient days, the antediluvian world, the biblical days that you can compare it to. The enchantment, the re-enchantment of society, bringing us back to the old age. And it's sort of it is. There was a long period of time where if you were born, and it's just, again, it's a blessing that we're in this time. You're born and it's just the life that I don't know how to explain it. It was more communal, I would suppose, local and communal and everything and family oriented, but nothing crazy going on, it's just very innocent lives. I suppose we were meant to live that way a little more based on how things are unfolding, because clearly, all this technology in our hands is not helping us as a whole. But there you go. Thank you very much to the executive producers. We really appreciate you. You keep the lights on here, as well as all the producers who come in monthly, and that includes supply droppers.
Supply drop.
Go to Canary supplydrop.com, and you will be given all the information you need to join the supply drops for $33 a month. You basically are supporting the show, and as a thank you, we will be providing a box of supplies, whether it be New World Order Fantasy League mugs, these tall mugs that I'd like drinking out of, or we also have the Samurai steel guitar strings, which is really cool. This is amazing. I have my very own branded guitar strings. I gotta probably start using that and providing more. I got my guitar here. It's just not all set up and ready. My Fender Jazzmaster. I'll be playing that a lot more, especially once we move and we're all settled in. I'm gonna have in mind this idea of having my guitar available to play while podcasting, while running the live stream, while doing the soundboard, while recording and talking. And yes, there's a lot going on. So, the one thing that we are doing that, this is something that I did not think of. This was not my idea. Let's just make it clear. It was not my idea to do this. It was the idea. Well, actually, I don't know whose idea it was. I think it was Sir Isaac or Sir Ike, as he is known. But maybe it was Basil's idea. Maybe it was somebody in the community. But what we've decided to do is to print Age of Deceit in DVD form, Age of Deceit 1, 2, and 3, and give it as part of the supply drop for the following quarters. I think Q3 you get one, and then Q2, I don't know. There's a sequence. I should not speak out of turn. I am not filled in on all the details, but I know it's a huge blessing. It's amazing to always hear from people who have gotten something out of that documentary. And, I always give praise to God because, I was just the vehicle. I was not trying to create anything of impact. I just wanted to put my thoughts and ideas into a film and present it again for free on YouTube. That was the outlet at the time. And just rode that. There were other documentaries doing things very similar, and it was something that inspired me to do the same thing. It was like, wow, there's a lot here in this worldview that is not exactly covered, and there's nothing that's coherently put together, all these different parts. And there were some, but just I wanted my own version of it. So, and it's become something that, again, the Lord has used way beyond what I even remember doing with it or anything. So again, it's a huge blessing. So if you want to be a part of that, and you want to receive Age of Deceit in hard copy, in DVD form anyway, as the internet gets a little clampy on the Age of Deceit documentaries and the Face Like the Sun channel and even Canary Cry. It's funny. We have a private YouTube channel, a secondary, like a backup channel to do things on, and that channel has gotten censored. We have this thing that pops up that says, hey, you can't live stream for 24 hours, but it's been like 2 weeks or 3 weeks or something. And we always get this message. So I don't know. It's not even a feed that anyone sees, but it still gets censored. So, that's a problem. And so if you want to preserve some of that content, it's a way to do that. And we're giving it as a gift to anybody who is willing to support the show month to month for the amount of $33.33. And you get a bunch of other stuff too. It's not just the DVDs. So there you go. I do believe there is a deadline for signing up for the Age of Deceit 1 distribution. I don't know the exact date, but I'd be very grateful if you would jump on and sign up and be a part of that. So Canary Cry, SupplyDrop.com.
Waiting for supply drop.
And also, just a quick mention of Canary Cry meetups.
Canary Cry meetups.
One of the most often asked questions we've gotten over the years is, do you know somebody who lives in fill in the blank where you live that talks about these things, or thinks about these things, or listens to this stuff, or whatever? And we always said, well, considering that I know nobody from fill in the blank where you're from, no. But, we always try to connect people. We've done emails back and forth and trying to connect people from around the country or around the world. But it's something that hopefully can happen organically for people who listen to this show. Canary Cry meetups, birds of a feather, the thing. We hang out. And it's a great way to connect with local people in your local community, your local area that may listen to the show, and you'll have some common ground to start a relationship, whether that be your, apocalypse buddy, your, STHF call group or something like that, where if something happens, you have people locally where you know what to do. That kind of planning is important. And, Canary Cry Meetup can be a start to that, where, again, you're there because of the show, which means you have a certain understanding, or at least agreeable foundation to, understanding the world. So there you go. CanaryCryMeetups.com. There's stuff coming up here. Oh boy, I better clean up. I think this is, NorCal Meetup. Did this get moved, or I'm confused. I can't keep up with everything. I apologize. But yes, I do believe there is the May 15th NorCal Meetup coming up. There's Glen Rose, Texas, May 27th. And then the next one scheduled is in September, so people getting ahead. Again, go visit CanaryCryMeetups.com. See if there's one near you, and if there's not, then message us and consider putting on your own. And we hope that provides a way to connect with, again, people that are in your local community that may share similar worldview. So there you go, CanaryCryMeetups.com.
This is fun! See you at the meetup.
Okay, normally we do Flippy here, but because of the situation today, I kind of combined Flippy as part of the hook at the beginning. So we're going to dive in, and the way that I want to do this today is to go through the stories that we have, and then we'll do all the thanking of the producers, the ones who came in with their treasure, their talent, and their time at the end. And again, if this really triggers some people, please let us know. Let Basil know too. I think that'll make him feel better if he's getting the come save us call. So we're going to dive right in. We're going to start off with World War III.
And you shall hear wars and rumors of wars.
Chinese show!
Okay, this is the Wall Street Journal, and the headline here: Princeton Review and Tutor.com are now owned by a Chinese company. Okay, interesting. You know, Princeton Review was a big deal when I was in high school. Everyone talked about the Princeton Review. It was like, hey, this is where education is at. Princeton Review and Tutor.com say a Chinese private equity firm has received regulatory approval to buy the test prep company and online tutoring platform more than 15 months after the acquisition closed. Of course, we are only hearing about this 15 months after the deal has been done, because this would never happen if the public was aware of the situation. Primavera Capital Group, based in Hong Kong, quietly purchased the well-known brands from Korean education company ST Unitas in January 2022 at a time of increased scrutiny of Chinese investment in the U.S. Investments in the tech and infrastructure industries, or ones that deal with significant amounts of potentially sensitive personal data, are sometimes reviewed by the Committee on Foreign Investment in the U.S., a federal panel that scrutinizes acquisition plans for foreign investors for national security concerns. CFIUS reviews are confidential. So this is very interesting. So we have the Committee on Foreign Investment in the U.S., CFIUS. And the way they're moving forward with the acronym is CFIUS, but the way they write it is capital C and then lowercase FIUS, all one word. And for a moment I thought, are they misspelling Confucius? Because, with education, we know about the Confucius Institute. So it's just something that jumped out at me. I was like, wait a minute, the Committee on Foreign Investments in the U.S., CFIUS, like Confucius. All right. Anyway, a spokeswoman for the Treasury Department said the committee doesn't publicly comment on transactions that they may or may not be reviewing or have reviewed. She said the committee, quote, is committed to taking all necessary actions within its authority to safeguard U.S. national security, says Confucius. Tutor.com is a long-standing contract to provide its service free to active duty, reserve, and other U.S. military service members, Department of Defense personnel, and their dependents. There's always a military tie-in. And that has been another thread in this entire U.S. I would say you can call it, I know some people call it a Chinese invasion. It really is. It's sort of a economic, I guess it is an economic invasion of the U.S. And they've done it brilliantly. And they have really had built a strong pipeline to military. There was the story a few months ago that we touched on where they were talking about AI investment, like Chinese companies that invest in AI, American AI companies, or I'm sorry, the other way around, American hedge funds that invest in Chinese AI companies. And the article was reporting that, hey, don't worry, there's only one, AI company from China that helps with military. So don't worry. And it's like, we have one? Isn't that one too many? But anyway. Okay, so we're learning more now. There's more to it than that. And I guess the takeover continues. It also holds contracts with school districts, including those in Los Angeles, Patterson, New Jersey, and Loudoun County, Virginia, to provide online homework help and subject matter tutoring, and is listed as a vetted vendor by the Texas Education Agency, New Hampshire Department of Education, and agencies in other states. Ooh, this is not going to go well with the red states right now. Your Floridas and your Texas, this is all the ammunition you need to really stomp out some Chinese economic strongholds. National security analysts and lawyers who help foreign companies navigate the regulatory process for U.S. acquisitions say Chinese companies have grown more skittish about publicizing their U.S. investments for fear of raising suspicions about data security. Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. It's like the criticism that's been since the beginning. The U.S. is paying closer attention to such deals as it increasingly views China as an adversary. Oh, stating the obvious here. Okay, then it just goes into some more quotes, and they talk about TikTok and ByteDance and the whole deal. So there was, I think there might have been, do I have another? No, I don't. Okay. Okay, they talk about, yes, privacy, the people, privacy is a priority, yada, 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 but we're owned by a Chinese company. There you go. Princeton Review, Tutor.com. This really, again, explains some of what we've been seeing in education. The Confucius Institute was a humongous deal that not a lot of people know or talk about. They really were the foundation. It was an exchange program. They were really the foundation of providing the text and the lessons and all this kind of stuff into college curriculums and courses and even extracurricular type of stuff, culture type of stuff. So it really was an invasion in the education sector, which can tie right up into the military and the economic, and it's all one big giant beast. So yeah, nothing new under the sun, but also the progress of this Chinese takeover. And again, this might be where, we're starting to see pushback. The Wall Street Journal reporting it as like, hey, this doesn't seem right. And maybe led by some of the red states, this could become a point of contention where things get done. And, there's some hard sanctions or cutoffs or, certain rules about foreign own or foreign, the ability of foreigners to own certain things, properties, companies, things of that nature. And so, yeah, it's sort of shaping up to be exactly what we thought it would be. And of course, Henry Kissinger had something to say about this whole situation. Well, not just the education part, but just China in general. Newsweek headline here: Kissinger predicts China involvement will lead to Ukraine peace talks. So he's been saying this for a while, but they're really helping him push the narrative. Henry Kissinger, a former U.S. Secretary of State and National Security Advisor, said he believes the Russia-Ukraine war is coming to a turning point and expects negotiations by the end of the year, thanks to recent efforts made by China. After several rounds of peace talks with Ukraine and Russia in the early months of the conflict, launched by Russian President Vladimir Putin in February 2022, neither side has seemed willing to return to the negotiating table. Beijing seemingly tried to reignite talks between Kyiv and Moscow with a 12-point proposition paper published on the one-year anniversary of the invasion. Along with calling for a ceasefire, the Chinese plan would leave Russian troops in occupied territories of Ukraine and put an end to any sanctions not approved by the UN Security Council, of which Russia is a veto-wielding member. In an interview with CBS News' Ted Koppel that aired on Sunday, Kissinger sounded confident that China would help change the tide of the ongoing war. And I will not play clips of old man mumbling these things here. Now that China has entered the negotiations, it will come to a head, I think, by the end of the year, he said. We will be talking about negotiating process and even actual negotiations. What is an announcement of an announcement of an announcement? Yeah, that's all this is. It's like, yeah, it's an announcement that they're going to talk about negotiation processes that may even lead to actual negotiations. All right, whatever. Okay, well, there you go. I mean, it's interesting to think about who benefits in this situation. Taiwan is always the topic here. It's sort of the unspoken topic in all of these moves. So you have China, who's trying to broker a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia, and because that would push back on U.S. support of Russia or of Ukraine and NATO, because China is pushing back on that whole thing, pushing back on the Western expansionist thing that we talked about the other day with the Global Security Initiative, the GSI that China is using as the fuel or maybe the glue to bring together the BRICS and Saudi Arabia and all these different places to do their dealings of commodities in yuan rather than the US dollar. The reason why they're doing that is because there seems to be some moral high ground when it comes to the international stage of China saying, look at what the US has done with their exporting of democracy. They've really not done a good job. Go read The Economic Hitman, stuff like that. So they've abused their place of power. And China is making that point to sneak in. I mean, they're a totalitarian, authoritarian government themselves that have all kinds of human rights issues and all that kind of stuff. But in the politics of the elite, the geopolitics of the elite, one could argue that everybody has that in their own country, right? Especially if you're authoritarian. It's like, of course, there are some oppressed people. What are you going to do? It's kind of their attitude. And then they come together and they're like, well, the U.S., look at them. They're trying to, and then they can push back against the U.S. And look, the U.S. dollar is still number one right now, but we clearly see the cracks forming. And many people have predicted the end of the U.S. dollar as the supreme world reserve currency sometime in the next, I don't know. They say century, maybe a couple decades, who knows? But it could happen very quickly, especially with the way they print money and, they bail out banks and big pharma and all kinds of stuff. It's a big mess. But in any case, the idea here being with Kissinger sort of providing a narrative that China, again, holds moral high ground. Like, yeah, China is the one. Because when you're similar to how the U.S. was after World War II, they kind of went around the world and were the ones that were trying to bring peace and establish these relationships and create the new world order. That was kind of their thing, that, hey, we are the leading security force that allows for, all these different countries to work together and, post-war, we're going to rebuild all that stuff. Well, for China, you have, if the Chinese are able to end any kind of U.S. support of the Ukraine war and they're able to broker peace, now you're on the good side with Putin because you're able to diffuse a Putin problem in Ukraine in general and isolated. And then also the NATO thing where everybody's already on China's side anyway. So anyway, there's a lot of layers here to consider, but I think it's interesting to see Kissinger again present this idea that China has the moral high ground here and they are the ones that are going to be able to broker this peace deal. And that will also give them a sort of de facto not a head start, but a what do you call it? It's sort of, and I guess an advantage when it comes to negotiating powers over Taiwan, because if they're able to solve Ukraine-Russia, and the U.S. is coming in and saying, hey, keep Taiwan independent, but really we need, we're the ones that are going to benefit from that, and the West, whereas if China says, hey, they're ours and they take hold of it, then they get to sort of be the one who wields the power of the future of microchips. And so it's fascinating to consider all the different angles here and all the geopolitics going on and the principalities and powers behind everything that's making this happen. But the Chinese invasion in the U.S. specifically to sort of dissolve the United States, culturally, we're seeing it all around us. Economically, it's happening. Culturally, it's been happening for years. But the dissolving of the United States continues, and it's not just the U.S. I think the U.S. is kind of an example of what's going to happen around the world in the technocracy as it unfolds. And it is with that in mind that I want to bring you this article from Yahoo News. Mirroring AFP headline: New study finds prehistoric migration from China to Americas. Right? We're always talking about who was here first, who got dibs. As the last continents to be settled by humans, the question of how and when people first came to the Americas has long intrigued scientists. Not historians, scientists. A new genetics study published Tuesday in Cell Reports finds that some of the first arrivals came from China during two distinct migrations. The first during the last ice age, and the second shortly after. Quote, our findings indicate that besides the previously indicated ancestral sources of Native Americans in Siberia, the northern coastal China also served as a genetic reservoir contributing to the gene pool, Yu Chin Lee, one of the report authors, told AFP. Lee added that during the second migration, the same lineage of people settled in Japan, which could help explain similarities in prehistoric arrowheads and spears found in the Americas, China, and Japan. It was once believed that ancient Siberians who crossed over a land bridge that existed in the Bering Strait, linked modern Russia and Alaska, were the sole ancestors of Native Americans. More recent research from the late 2000s onward has signaled more diverse sources from Asia could be connected to an ancient lineage responsible for founding populations across the Americas, including Bolivia, Brazil, Chile, Ecuador, Mexico, and California. I like how, most of them are nations, but I guess California is as big of a nation, or big as a nation. Known as D4H, this lineage is found in mitochondrial DNA, which is inherited only from mothers and is used to trace maternal ancestry. The team from the Kunming Institute of Zoology embarked on a 10-year hunt for D4H. Oh, good. Institute of Zoology, looking at human traits, human genetic traits, combing through 100,000 modern and 15,000 ancient DNA samples across Eurasia. They eventually landed on 216 contemporary and 39 ancient individuals who came from the ancient lineage. By analyzing the mutations they had accrued over time, looking at the samples as geographic locations, and using carbon dating, they were able to reconstruct the D4H lineage's origins and expansion history. The results revealed two migration events. The first was between 19,500 and 26,000 years ago during the last glacial maximum, when ice sheets coverage was at its greatest and climate conditions in northern China were likely inhospitable. The second occurred during the melting period during 19,000 and 11,500 years ago. Increasing human populations during this period might have triggered migration. And it goes on. We don't have to get into all the details here. But the idea being that, the Chinese were in the Americas well before America. Can you imagine being a Chinese national? One of these weaponized citizens who travel for the agenda, the G's generational agenda, now get some kind of scientific evidence to back up their whole thing of like, hey, we're going to own companies in America and we should be allowed to do it because technically we were here before anybody else was here. We seeded all the Native American, we're part of it anyway. So yeah, we get dibs and everything. And there should be no contest whether we should be allowed to own Princeton, own huge institutions for education or land, farmland, all that stuff. Hey, we were here first. So anyway, I just thought it was an interesting connection with all the stuff being talked about here. And I also have, I found this study here from TNF Online. That's Taylor Francis Online. Ethical considerations for DNA testing as a proxy for nationality. And I think, again, this was published in 2020, or I guess published online in March of 2021, received in July of 2020. And it looks at the ethics of DNA testing and how it can actually identify people or categorize them and their lineage. And because what they're trying to do is map the whole human race, right? They want to create the human race tree and have everybody marked. And of course, there's one who this whole family tree belongs to, and there are those who are trying to, sour the fruit and eventually be pruned. So anyway, the abstract here, just real quick. As nations strengthen border and restrict refugee admissions, national security officials are screening for fraudulent nationality claims. Again, the problem, oh no, refugee issues and people fraudulently claiming certain nationalities, like Elizabeth Warren. Is that what you're talking about? One tool to investigate nationality claims is DNA testing. Haha, that's right. Elizabeth Warren and her 0.0005% Cherokee or whatever she was to claim that she was Cherokee Indian. Okay, one tool to the DNA, either for claimed relationships or for ancestral origins. At the same time, the plight of global statelessness leaves millions without documentation of their nationality, and DNA testing might be the only recourse to provide evidence of heritage or relationships. You know, we mentioned this when we first reported on the whole reparations in California. We'll get to that in a little bit. The whole Newsom thing. Actually, Newsom rejected it, which I think is interesting. But this whole idea that, hey, you know, the black community, African Americans, if you're African American, you get $1 million in California because you may have been descendant of a slave. Okay. How do we prove that? Family records, maybe some documentation, sure. But to really be ironclad, we're going to have to take a DNA test and make sure that, hey, your grandfather is who you say he is, and that he was in this era, in this generation, and yes, he was a slave, and whatever it may be. The requirement to accept that money is pretty wild. Pretty wild. So, something like papers like this, bringing up the ethical considerations, like, hey, we don't know if this is a good thing, and this might be ethically wrong, but we have a problem. We have a problem with refugees. We have a problem with them fraudulently claiming certain nationalities. This DNA thing would really, put an end to that until, until people start using fake DNA or synthetic DNA or something to, take off the sniff or something. But okay. Something to consider here. And so we're going to move from China to more of the Ukraine, Taiwan front. And in that context, I would like to bring you this story from the Washington Post. It is an opinion piece by Josh Rogan. Opinion. Taiwan is urging the U.S. not to abandon Ukraine. Interesting. Some Republicans want to scale back U.S. military support for Ukraine, insisting that Taiwan's defense should take priority. I don't know that we've said that specifically. I think Basil and I have been talking about how they're going to transition from Ukraine to Taiwan as a sort of the similar type of proxy war going on. But the idea, an idea like that being, I don't know, propagated into government levels, and then we have Republicans saying that we should shut down Ukraine, pump up Taiwan defense. Sure, I guess if you're Republican, that's how. Especially if you're like a rhino or you're part of the military-industrial complex, that's your interpretation. It's like, oh yeah, there's a Taiwan-China issue. We should focus all of our attention there. But those who claim to be for protecting Taiwan ought to listen to its leaders. They believe the island's security depends on Washington standing firm in its support for Kyiv. Okay, so we have the Washington Post claiming that the Taiwanese leaders want the U.S. to remain in firm support of Kyiv because that provides protection, security specifically is the word, security to Taiwan. And then we have on the other side Xi trying to broker a peace deal, bring Ukraine and Russia into some kind of peace situation. Interesting, right? This is all interesting, especially in the context of Taiwan. The notion that the U.S. must choose between fully supporting Ukraine or building up the defense of Taiwan has migrated from Fox News into the mainstream Washington foreign policy discussion. Senator Josh Hawley has led the charge by arguing that extensive U.S. military aid to Ukraine detracts from the more urgent task of arming Taiwan to deter a Chinese invasion. But if Taiwanese leaders don't agree that that's true, shouldn't U.S. policymakers factor that into their analysis? Do these Republicans think they understand Taiwan's interests better than the Taiwanese? Quote, Ukraine's survival is Taiwan's survival. Ukraine's success is Taiwan's success. Taiwan's representative in Washington, B. Kim Xiao, told the McCain Institute's Sedona Forum last week, quote, "Our futures are closely linked." Are they? Wow. Okay. The Taiwan argument is not only the latest justification made by those on the right who want to reduce U.S. support for Kyiv during a recent speech calling for the defense of Taiwan. Hawley said that as a first step, quote, "we should cut off U.S. military aid to Ukraine." Following Hawley's lead, self-proclaimed realist think tankers assert that U.S. support for Ukraine has no deterrent effect on Chinese President Xi Jinping. Again, I don't know about that. I don't know if that's true. Opinion piece here. Quote, "Ukraine is not going to drive Beijing's decision whether to attack Taiwan. Instead, what's most critical for deterring a war over Taiwan is the military balance in Asia." Former Trump administration Pentagon official Eldridge Colby argued during a recent Hudson Institute debate. And they go on and on and on here. I thought I had something else. Oh, here we go. "Overall, the notion of abandoning Ukraine to focus on Taiwan makes little sense unless Ukraine succeeds. The war in Europe will likely worsen, requiring more U.S. involvement, not less." Okay, so again, it's an op-ed here from WAPO. But what they're arguing here is basically we need to continue U.S. involvement in Ukraine because if we don't, we're going to have more U.S. involvement in all of Europe, not just Ukraine, Europe. There's going to be more. So we need to, it's almost like they're saying we got to keep feeding the Ukraine thing to plug the hole, because if we release the hole, then we'll have to deploy not just for Ukraine, it'll be we're supporting all of Europe. So we need more U.S. involvement because otherwise we're going to have more U.S. involvement. It's ridiculous. This is the war game, right? This is like, you stuck between a rock and a hard place. Okay. So that's what's going on here with the Ukraine situation, not the Ukraine. Well, it is the Ukraine situation, but the Taiwan situation in relationship to Ukraine. According to, there's another highlight here. Those who argue for abandoning Ukraine on Taiwan's behalf are in effect claiming to be more pro-Taiwan than the Taiwanese. That is arrogance, not prudence. Taiwan's leaders understand how to deter China and protect their country's security better than GOP politicians and think tankers. Okay. Let me try to mind map this again a little bit. Xi wants to broker a peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. They want to bring them to peace. And they have the support or the vision of guys like Kissinger. Then you have the West over here who want to make sure, the way they frame it, they want to make sure Taiwan remains independent, that Taiwan does not get sucked into be a part of China, because of the chip manufacturing and the future of, the future production, really. It's really like the largest oil rig or something, it's similar to that. And they want to keep the war going, right? They don't want the war to end in Ukraine. They want it to keep going. Now, maybe there is an expansion to Taiwan, and rightfully so, we should do that in some sense, but the military-industrial complex would like to continue warfare to persist because that allows what? China to not have the upper hand, maybe in negotiations over Taiwan. The longer Ukraine takes, the longer as it continues, Taiwan sort of is in limbo. It's sort of, you can't really settle the Taiwan issue until the Ukraine issue, or so it's perceived. So I find this all interesting. I find the sort of geopolitical staging to be fascinating, and how mainstream media is reporting certain angles. And Washington Post here, very much part of the military-industrial complex. Like, we have to stay in war. If we don't stay in war, we're going to have more war. Great logic. And to continue this Taiwan tug of war, Reuters reported U.S. wants World Health Organization to invite Taiwan to observe May meeting. That's Antony Blinken. That's Abe Lincoln. Again, another U.S. what is he specifically? Secretary of State is encouraging the World Health Organization to invite Taiwan to participate, to observe how we counsel the world. It's just, I don't know why that is so. It's like, okay, hey Blinken, Blinken, do you not see the or read the room when it comes to the World Health Organization and their sort of reputation around the world? It's not very great right now. And you think bringing Taiwan, inviting them into that whole mess over there is going to really get Taiwan on board? Like, hey, yeah, you're right. We should really go with the West and NATO, and we're going to stick with you, because there is a possibility here where Taiwan is just like, the opportunities economically is better if we just stick with China. Yeah, sorry. And the U.S. loses on that. And if that happens, according to some leaked information or whatever, the U.S. would rather see Taiwan destroyed, or at least the manufacturing factories of the microchips destroyed, than fall into the hands of China. So, yeah, I could see that happening. And guess what? If that happens, who are they going to blame? Who is the West going to blame? I'm gonna say Russia. They're gonna blame Russia for pulling the nuke. Putin doing his job. He finally set off that nuke, and it was to help ultimately to settle the score with the West and NATO. So anyway, I'm just painting scenarios here. I'm just having fun. But in any case, Abe Lincoln saying, hey, yeah, bring Taiwan over to the World Health Organization. That'll really get them inspired to join the whole Western Front. And even more, okay, I think that clearly there's a campaign happening. Liz Truss to visit Taiwan and give speech that could upset UK's China strategy. Oh, okay, so former PM, remember she's not the PM anymore. She stepped down, but she's staying busy. The former Prime Minister Liz Truss is to visit Taiwan next week, where she will deliver a speech likely to anger Beijing and potentially upset the UK government's careful approach to China relations. Truss said on Tuesday, quote, Taiwan is a beacon of freedom and democracy. I'm looking forward to showing solidarity with the Taiwanese people in person in the face of increasingly aggressive behavior and rhetoric from the regime in Beijing. So clearly, UK, NATO, US, Western Front versus China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and now Brazil, and parts of South America, and lots of places in Africa. And oh wow, they have a lot more together than we do. But it's okay. We have the moral high ground, right? We're morally more justified to take over Taiwan for our own purposes because we want Apple to be the next monolith or something. I don't know. But anyway, you are clearly seeing the West do things to provoke China in the context of Taiwan, and they would want nothing more than to regain moral high ground if a Western representative, something happens to what Western representative in a sort of diplomatic visit. That's why the Nancy Pelosi thing was so big, right? Oh, Nancy's going to it's going to start World War III. Well, I guess that temperature continues to rise. At any time a Western representative goes into Taiwan to communicate, to talk, or whatever, you're sort of stoking the flames around China and what they would like to do. But I know that China has suggested through their propaganda platforms that they would like to settle this thing without some kind of a physical altercation, right? And that's where it's kind of weird, where they're like, look, we don't want violence. And out of the West, they're like, we'll destroy everything before we let China win. And it's like, who are being the adults? Or at least that's what it looks like. And it's really uncomfortable. I don't like it. I don't like it being an American. But it kind of is what's happening. So there you go. Let's continue on here. There's more dots to connect. And that is concerning Russia.
Russia.
This is from Zero Hedge. We normally don't carry stuff from Zero Hedge, but I think we might start, and this is another separate conversation. We've been specifically targeting mainstream media, whether it be CNN or Fox or A lot of times Reuters, Daily Mail. We're trying to bring down the number of Daily Mail articles, but I guess they're still in print, and they still sell like close to 1 million copies a day or something. So they're fairly big for what they are. And I think there's like 1 million people that read their thing a month. Anyway, we try to bring you mainstream news. Zero Hedge is kind of on that border where they're so big. They're one of the biggest in the alt world that they're kind of becoming its own, mainstream type thing. So we may start doing that a little bit more. Not that we hadn't before, but just in a more official capacity. But in any case, just a caveat. This is from Zero Hedge. The headline, ex-Russian space boss finds no proof Americans landed on moon in 1969. Oh boy. Can you imagine that whole house of cards coming down in the U.S.? It's like, not only are we, we're sending more up there, right? With Elon and Bezos and all, we got all our billionaire oligarchs building the whole thing back up. Just in time for everyone to learn that it didn't happen the first time. Russia's former head of the Rosicrucians? No, Roscosmos Space Agency, Dmitry Rogozin, said he went on a quest about a decade ago to find concrete proof that Americans landed on the moon in 1969. After finding little evidence, he questioned whether the Apollo 11 mission reached the lunar surface. Quote, about 10 years ago when I worked in the government, I sent an official request to Roscosmos to provide me with documentary evidence of the Americans' stay on the moon, which at the time was still at the disposal of the federal agency, Rogozin said in a post on Telegram on Sunday. This is why I think mainstream is not going to carry this. He was saying stuff on Telegram. Well, actually, they do too. They carry it, but it doesn't fit the narrative on stuff. He continued, quote, I was painfully embarrassed by the fact that the Soviet cosmonauts returning from multi-day expeditions could barely stand on their feet and underwent a long recovery after such flights, and that Americans crawled out of their lunar ships like cucumbers from the garden. I like the argument, though. It's like, man, our own Russians, they struggled. You can tell that there was a physical toll traveling all this, whatever, space or whatever. But the Americans, man, they popped out of there like cucumbers. Nice and snappy, fresh cucumbers. All right. Rogozin claimed to have submitted multiple requests to Roscosmos for proof of NASA's 1969 moon landing. He said the only evidence he received was a book that contained an account by Soviet cosmonaut Alexei Leonov about his conversation with the American astronauts and their discussions about their lunar mission. Okay, we're going to have to get into all that. But again, the slow unraveling of the old order, I suppose. The first New World Order is sort of shedding its skin, and it's possible that the whole moon landing thread just completely unravels. And what was the I forget what movie. There was a very popular movie. Maybe the chat will know. And hey, Rumble chat, we got to do better. The Rumble chat's barely moving. Everybody else, good job. But what was the film where it's like a fictional future? I think it was Interstellar, where it was set in the future where like people found out about the conspiracy or something like that, and NASA went underground or something, right? That was like the whole plot, where it's like NASA became like a secret secret project to go to space and beyond or something like that. I mean, it's pretty funny if you think about it. But anyway, I forget why I brought that up. I'm confused. This is what happens when you solo podcast. You start doing other things. I was kind of fiddling with the chat window here, and I completely forgot what I was talking about. Good times. Okay, anyway, did we land on the moon? I don't think so. But hey, that's just my opinion. What do I know? I wasn't there. We're going to move on here to the beast system, metaverse, AI, the whole shebang.
Speaking of the beast system, beast system. Welcome to the metaverse.
Artificial intelligence.
Oh yeah, everyone's talking about AI nowadays. It's pretty wild that looking at artificial intelligence, not the technology per se, but sort of the social implications and some of the technology over the years. There was a period of time where every single day I was scouring, the interwebs to find information about AI, especially the philosophical and societal implications, the psychological effects, and there weren't a lot of things out there, but it was clear that the direction, the technocracy, the sort of scientific dictatorship world where we live in a virtual panopticon, where we are sort of monitoring our behavior because a camera is on us all the time and everybody can see through those cameras. We're monitoring each other's behavior. That whole concept was really troubling. And it did feel like nobody was paying attention, although, again, that's more of a feeling. I think through the gift of the Face Like the Sun platform and Canary Cry, we were able to discover that, this is on a lot of people's minds. Like, we're not just alone out there thinking about these issues. But now AI, because there's a product that got released, now it's everywhere. It is my news feed that I collect a lot of news from. AI, I get these notifications. It's crazy. There's multiple stories every notification. It's impossible to wade through everything. And on top of it, I'm seeing a lot of people talk about transhumanism a lot this year. A lot of people there was a Financial Times article. I'm not going to bring it to the show, but the headline was, "We need to examine the beliefs of today's tech luminaries." It's like, I should have been doing that like 20 years ago before all this exploded. A little too late. I think the stuff is being developed already. But, it's becoming mainstream to understand the cultural transition, the morphing of society from the results of the third industrial revolution into the changes that will occur in the fourth industrial revolution. So, anyway, all that being said, the headline here from the World Economic Forum, directly, this was published on May 9th, 2023, AI is shaping the metaverse, but how? Industry experts explain. Thank you, World Economic Forum, for bringing us your industry experts, because we know that, truth and honesty and thinking about your fellow man is all you do over there at the World Economic Forum. All right, we're going to jump in to the article. At a recent global collaboration village partner event, and by the way, for those of you who are part of the supply drop, or if you join and you get Age of Deceit, one of the very first things that I documented is a gentleman, I forget his name. Oh, that's bad. Who was quoting a book that was published, I think, by the United Nations. It was called Our Global Neighborhood, or Our Global Village, or maybe it was Neighborhood. Anyway, this whole idea of a village and neighborhood, we know from Hillary Clinton, she's brought it up in her talking points. It's a very interesting idea that, like, hey, we're a whole world, but we're just one big village, if you think about it, which, I guess you could make that argument in some sense, but it's better, I think, and more accurate if you're talking about it in the context of, hey, we're here for the kingdom of God, right? Not for your Klaus village that you want to create for the world. So anyway, okay. At a recent global collaboration village partner event, notable leaders in diverse fields shared their perspectives on how the metaverse is transforming their industries, how AI is supporting their goals in the metaverse, and the promise of generative AI to create opportunities and solve problems in this space and to accelerate the development of the metaverse. And their first big headline, transforming art. Basil and I have been very persistent in pointing out how art is the vehicle to bring this new wave of technological infiltration. It's going to be an art project to put a microchip in my hand, and look, I can feel it's connected to the internet, and it's connected to a website that measures the earthquakes all around the world, and then my chip vibrates every time there's an earthquake, so I feel I'm one with the earth in this art project. So that's the kind of thing that's going on. So art is truly a vehicle. So fashion, we talk about the beast not just a beast system, but beast fashion, things like that. It's a big part because art shapes culture, or culture shapes art. I guess it's a symbiotic thing, but we know how influential art is in establishing a worldview and a culture and a movement and all these things, marketing, media, even us. To think about what we do here at Canary Cry News Talk with these thumbnails of these shows, which some of it is ridiculous, of course, and that's sort of the fun we get to have with putting together these thumbnails for each episode. But it's doing a similar thing as what they're doing, but of course, we're trying to always bring it back to Christ and point to the truth, and they're not. They're trying to, suck your brain data out. But in any case, let me get back to the article here. Transforming art. Rafik Anadol is an internationally renowned media artist, director, and pioneer. Ooh, media artist. Maybe I should pick up on that title. I'll consider myself a media artist. What do you do? I'm a media artist. Oh, what's that mean? I podcast. I think that's a better euphemism for podcasters. Media artist. Director and pioneer whose work resides at the crossroads of art, science, and technology. There it is, the crossroads of art, science, and technology. Rafik Anadol Studios, which comprises of designers, architects, data scientists, and researchers, use data and machine learning to create immersive audio-visual performances. Rituals. They're calling it performances. It's actually rituals. Quote, as an artist, I've been using AI and data painting for almost a decade. When I think about the metaverse, I see it as a global community that inspires and brings people together. The uniqueness of these virtual technologies is that they create experiences that transcend geographical constraints and the limits of our physical world, said Anadol. The limits of our physical world. A theme that I have pointed out since tracking this stuff all the way back in 2011 and, expressed more appropriately through books like Supernatural by Chris Putnam and Carl Tycribb's work on reenchantment. This is all taking place because the secular worldview is being forced to adopt a spirituality because of the virtual internet digital realm that is being built all around us. And how you express yourself in those realms is going to be all the rage. Is going to be the NFTs and the monkeys and the blah, 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 all that stuff. So that's where we're headed. But not even hidden, right in this article is some more disturbing stuff here. Rafik Anadol also spoke on the ability of AI and the metaverse to immerse people into a whole new world as yet unexplored through data and technology. Again, a whole new world that is unexplored through data and technology. It's a realm that is unexplored. We're going to explore it. Yay! We're going to conquer a new world on a flying carpet. And literally, you can program that, I'm sure. I'm sure you can program the flying carpet that takes you to new realms and new worlds. Quote, again, this is on the World Economic Forum. This is not some crazy blog. Quote, once we're in the metaverse, it's not just about wearing gear, but connecting ourselves on a deeper level through biometric data from our heartbeats, brain activity, and senses like touch, sight, and sound, said Anadol. So, right. Again, we've been warning about this for so long. It almost seems redundant, and I get it. We almost make the point every episode, but it's because these outlets and these platforms like the World Economic Forum are blatantly stating, yeah, it's not just about wearing the tech. It's actually becoming one. This digital realm, it responds and we can shape it based on you, based on your biometric data, your heartbeat, your brain activity, your senses, your touch, and we will get to. Let me just jump to it now because I think it's related to this. The New York Post, VR smell-o-vision may enable users to detect dozens of odors. Yeah, great. Virtual reality smell. Oh, who's building that? Oh, engineers from China. Oh, okay. They're the ones that are going to provide the VR smell technology. Fantastic. We all would love to know what Xi's office smells like. Does it smell like dim sum? Does it have the smell of delicious Chinese what's my favorite? There's a dish that I love that's Chinese. It's the Mongolian beef. If you do it right, whew, that's a delicious meal. Is that what the Xi's office smells like? Well, we can find out. Just plug in our VR headsets and just fly on our flying carpets to the G Metaverse headquarters and give it a whiff. Give it a whiff. Find out. Okay, I'm joking, but I'm just pointing out the absurdity of this, okay? Because it goes back to data collection, the sensors, everything, all of our devices are collecting data. It's all sensors. It's all the data collection because it's going to shape the way things work. And that's why there's a war, unspoken, kind of a Cold War over who gets to control Taiwan because they are the leading country or the country that hosts the leading chip manufacturing facility. And like we have talked about before, all of this is becoming spiritual. They talked about this whole facility in a spiritual sense. I visited the temple. I forget what outlet it was. It might have been, I forget. It might have been NPR, something like that. It was a mainstream outlet that did that. So again, all of this is becoming a religion, the technocratic religion. He noted the progress that has been made in bringing ideas alive only in human imagination to life. Thanks to AI, artworks can be impactful in immersive spaces where people make real connections and where humanity is central to it. AI can help create things that only exist in our imaginations. AI could help artists create new metaverse spaces that exist in our dreams. We've talked about dream engineering as well. And one of the effects, there was a big YouTuber, I forget his name. We documented this. These stories pop up in my brain, and I don't have a direct source to it, but that's why we do the show, is that, we do the show, we document it, it's there somewhere, and then, we forget about it. But then we bring stories like this back up, and it's there again. And what was that? Now I forgot about the story. What was I talking about? I was talking about the metaverse, the spaces that create the connections, the humanity, the central to... Oh, the imagination. Yes. Okay. We're going to go to Genesis 11 because I'd like to bring it up. Again, you can't make this up, right? Clearly this guy who's like, yeah, we're going to collect all your data. It's going to be great. It's going to be human. You got to understand this whole metaverse thing. Yeah, it's a metaverse, but it's human. You see, all the data is coming from humans. AI can help create things that only exist in our imaginations. Yes, only in our imaginations. Genesis 11. The building of the Tower of Babel, of course. And the reason why God decided to break apart or split the languages, Babel, starting in verse 5, then the Lord came down to see the city and the tower that the sons of men were building. And the Lord said, they have begun to do this as one people speaking the same language, and nothing they advise will be beyond them. Let me get to a different translation here because the other translations do a little bit of a better job, at least in driving home the point that I would like to make. Let's see. What is it? King James? Nothing will be... interesting. I thought there was a line about nothing they imagined to do. Is that... what translation is that? Okay, I'm going to look it up. Imagined. Genesis 11:6. Imagined. King James. Okay, so I'm not crazy. Verse 6, and the Lord said, behold, the people is one, they have all one language, and this they began to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. Okay, so the point being that when the Tower of Babel was being made, part of it was, yes, this rebellion of men because they spoke in one language, but they unlocked something where God said, hey, this allows them to do whatever they imagine to do. And that's not good for humanity. And that's outside of my plans. So I'm going to do something to stop that from happening. And clearly, the splitting of the languages was a result of that. And we are a product. If we are to follow that story, our existence today, we see it. We are from different countries. We look a little different. We talk a different language. There are barriers with language in this world that we're born into. But we are also born into a time when technology has brought down those barriers. And all of a sudden, because of the technologies that are bringing down those barriers, people that are in high places that are talking about AI in the context of World Economic Forum and Metaverse and all this kind of stuff, they are the ones out there saying, oh, this thing that we have created, this thing that you must participate in with all your data, it's a thing that only exists in your imagination. In fact, anything you imagine to do, we can create in this world. And that's why I think we're living in the days of Noah. This is just another point of reference of like, yeah, this makes sense. The only time to really compare this period to is the days of Noah. When you look at the Tower of Babel, Noah lived 350 years after the flood. I think he was around when Babel happened. I mean, presumably, the math works out. And of course, he lived 600 years before the flood, which was a completely different world. Maybe it was Atlantis, that the mythological Atlantis, where there was some kind of advanced civilization. Who knows? But it doesn't matter what it was exactly then, because today we clearly see the fingerprints of the past emerging in something that is supposed to be so futuristic and new and fresh, and it's absolutely true that there's nothing new under the sun. So, okay, moving forward here. I guess we'll just touch on this. It's really not that important, but just for fun here.
Who should we tickle next? I am not a lizard.
I am not capable of hatred.
Mark Zuckerberg is not capable of hatred, but he is capable of winning a jiu-jitsu tournament, a Brazilian jiu-jitsu tournament. New York Post headline: Mark Zuckerberg spars with referee at Brazilian jiu-jitsu tournament, then wins gold, silver medals. So don't mess with the billionaire. He's got way too much time on his hands. And what does he start doing? Lifting weights, learning how to fight. Because that is the story arc of the nerd, right? Is you start off, everyone makes fun of you, you become successful, but they still make fun of you. So they think you're a cyborg robot. So what do? You're gonna become a jiu-jitsu champion. And it does not look like he's in really great shape there. But let's read a little bit about it. Meta boss Mark Zuckerberg got into a heated exchange with the referee at his first ever Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament, then went on a surprise martial arts fan. Whoa, hold on. Then went on to surprise martial arts fans by winning gold and silver medals. Okay, great job, Mark. Good job. I am human. I like to wrestle. Look, I like to pin down other men with my body parts. Okay, there you go. That was just some fun there. Something more serious here. I apologize. I didn't mean to sidetrack us. I just wanted everyone to know that while the World Economic Forum is busy pushing forward AI, total genetic surveillance on our bodies and minds, Mark Zuckerberg is learning how to put people in a chokehold. Fantastic. I wanted to touch on this trans story. We've been talking about transhumanism for a decade, but also in the context of the transgender conversation. I think those of you who are with us or have been with us for a long time know that we've said forever that transgenderism in the sort of cultural sense is going to be a big vehicle for transhumanism, clearly. And, when we started in 2012, when I started talking about transhumanism in 2011, it was one of the first things I noticed was like, oh, wow, there's a parallel between transhumanists talking about we want to transcend gender. We have the ability to evolve past our current status of humanity. The binary of male, female, it's caused so many societal problems and everything. We are at a point where we are more than just male and female. And so the technology can help us get there. And then reading, of course, the occult and esoteric historic worldviews of ancient past, where they look at the biblical accounts of Adam and Eve and they interpret it differently. They're like, oh, look at Adam was clearly a man-woman or asexual or something. Clearly, the Adam, the original form, transcended gender because, he didn't really have gender until God put him to sleep and cut open his rib cage. Kind of like Basil. Are they ripping open his rib cage? I don't think they're going to rip open Basil's rib cage, but similar thing, some kind of I don't know. You can call it surgery. Some kind of miraculous God-inspired or God-handled transformation from Adam being Adam alone to Adam and Eve, male and female. So anyway, it's fascinating to see that now in today's society, AI explodes in conversation, and at the same time, this whole trans thing has exploded in conversation. Excuse me. So the headline here from AP is trans minors protected from parents under Washington law. And it goes like this. Minors seeking gender affirming care. And again, the language here is important to point out because they do sneak in some words here. Minors seeking gender affirming care in Washington will be protected from the intervention of estranged parents under a measure Governor Jay Inslee signed into law Tuesday. The new law is part of a wave of legislation this year in Democratic-led states intended to give refuge amid a conservative movement in which lawmakers in other states have attacked gender rights. I'd like to know exactly what gender rights were being attacked, but okay. And limited or banned gender-affirming care for minors. Minors, as in underage people, not those in mines. Limited or banned gender-affirming care for minors. Gender-affirming care is a very kind way of putting it, of saying mutilation. And they address that a little later in the article here. I'm going to skip down. Quote, with this bill, Washington leads the way. The state of Washington leads the way by taking a more compassionate, developmentally appropriate, and reasoned approach to support these youth as they access gender-affirming treatment and reproductive health care services. So this quote by Inslee, they're basically saying, yes, the Democratic states are the best parents for these children who are clearly struggling with their gender identity. And unlike their genetic parents who are unfit for the job, the state is clearly, with this bill, we are more compassionate. We're more developmentally appropriate to mutilate our youth who are struggling with their gender identities. And again, this goes back to, I saw in the chat, somebody mentioned trans Maoism, which Adam Curry had pointed out a few episodes ago of No Agenda. And, this idea that in the Mao regime, they sort of use the same kind of tactics to further their agenda, breakdown of gender in society. And I think it's a very important point in the whole context of what China is doing to America. And it's a very fine and important point. But I also think even beyond that is the transhuman conversation where, again, they want a generation of people that are susceptible to change, to genetic alterations, surgeries. What do they call it? Care. I guess care is going to be the euphemism. Yeah, just gender affirming care, or insecurity care. You had some some trauma in the past. We're going to care for you with VR psychedelic treatments, and you're going to be perfect. Under the state, the government is going to give you these treatments, and we're the best because we're so compassionate, So anyway, and then they mentioned some states that are moving in that direction and the states that are moving away from it. And then it says this: those who oppose gender-affirming care, okay, so the people that are against this whole thing, raise fears about the long-term effects treatments have on teens. Yes, I think that's a fair point of contention. Argue research is limited, it is, and focus particularly on irreversible procedures such as genital surgery or mastectomies. Yeah. Typically, that is the concern, that these children, underage children, without the consent of their parents, are like, yeah, mutilate me. And then the state is like, oh, we're so compassionate that we're going to let you do that, young 12-year-old or whatever. Okay, I continue. Yet those operations are rarely performed on minors. Oh, that's their excuse. Okay, so it's not really happening to minors that much, so it's not really, what are you guys arguing about? Doctors typically guide kids towards therapy or voice coaching long before medical intervention. I love this part. Puberty blockers, anti-androgens that block the effects of testosterone, and hormone treatments are far more common than surgery. Okay, I'm sorry, excuse me. Puberty blockers, anti-androgens, block effects of testosterone and hormone treatments. That's a problem. You should not be pumping these things full into kids, especially in the context of their sort of, I guess, exploration or confusion, and maybe it's just a trendy thing to do or the rebellious thing to do when you're rebelling against conservatism or your parents or tradition or whatever. You think you're being so radical by becoming trans or, leaning into this androgynous state. And then the compassionate government providing procedures, whether it's, it's not, but they don't do operations. Okay, great. But what about all these hormone treatments? That's not good for these children. Not at all. So yeah, there's concerns. Hello. They've been available in the U.S. for more than a decade and are standard treatments backed by major doctors' organizations, including the American Medical Association. Oh, so we have the green light from the medical establishment. Oh, okay. I'm sorry, AP. I guess puberty blockers and, blocking the effects of testosterone, anti-androgens and stuff, giving it to underage people is just way more compassionate because, hey, you got it signed off by the white coats. The priests of science have said that this is an acceptable path forward for the youth, and so it be. Okay, great. But those who claims misrepresent, I'm sorry, hold on, let me get this right. In Washington, local Republican lawmakers have spent weeks railing against the legislation signed into law Tuesday. Senate Governor Leader John Braun said in March that it would drive a wedge between vulnerable kids and their parents. Online, some users have twisted the content of the measure to suggest it will see the state ripping children from their homes. But those claims misrepresented the legislation, which is intended to keep estranged young people housed, according to experts and the lawmakers sponsoring the bill. The bill does not address custody and would not result in the state taking children away from their home or parents. Okay, so there's dishonesty from both sides. I think it's important to point out that, and I've noticed this a lot, where the left is always kind of on like the not logical logic. They're the progressive thinking of like, woo, whatever, man. Like, hey, with some sprinkled in like, hey, doctors said it's okay, and it's always emotion based, like compassion. Whereas the right, they'll take a talking point and just kind of make it extreme, and by doing so, by putting it in words that are more extreme, they're kind of doing a reverse euphemism. They're making it more sensational. By doing that, they actually do target themselves by the other side to point out, like, you actually know that's inaccurate. You're over exaggerating it. So there's exaggeration on both sides. There's illogic on both sides. This is a common thing, but I just, something I want to point out, because I know a lot of times it seems like we're agreeing with the Republican talking point about this issue or something like that. And I think, sure, given the current state of the right-left paradigm, it appears that the right has a little more logic, is a little bit more grounded in traditional objective approaches to everything, really, even science and news and ethics and everything else. So yeah, sure, we will align, but also ultimately we understand that it is an apparatus and part of the system, this right-left paradigm. So keep that in mind, and we will continue to see this thing progress forward here. I've already stated that the first super soldier in the United States may be a trans person, because they will, have been part of this program, being harvested by the government, looking for people to join into the system. The state becomes your parents. The state becomes your coach. The state becomes your employer. The whole deal. That's what's happening. And it's happening in the context of the military. So that is part of the development ongoing as well. Which leads me to the most depressing subject for today's show.
It's Newsom science, baby! Ha!
Love Newsom. Gotta love Newsom. Fox News, California Governor Newsom declines to back reparations checks. What? Says slavery's legacy is more than cash payments. No, he didn't. No, he did not. I can't believe this. This is insanity. Let's find out. California. Oh, actually, I think I have a clip here. Yeah, I have a clip from ABC that summarizes some of this. 50 seconds. Let's play. Let's take a listen.
New this morning, Governor Newsom appears to not be on board with the idea of paying money to address California's history with slavery.
Well, yesterday he told CNN reporters that a legacy like this is about more than cash. On Saturday, the state's reparations task force approved a long list of proposals that would compensate and apologize to Black Californians for generations of discriminatory policies. It's up to lawmakers to determine what to do with those recommendations. Now, if it's approved, it could cost the state billions of dollars.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown.
Oh, it's Mark Brown. You guys remember Mark Brown? Mark, for those of you watching, it just cut to the end little thing right there where, one of the anchors is pitching ABC 7. Mark Brown is a black anchor on ABC 7. He's been there for years. I remember seeing him, I think, when I was a kid. He's been there for a long time. His claim to fame was a moment that will go down in news history. He was reporting on a rapist that was loose. A rapist on the loose. And it's a normal news thing where he's in his suit, he's talking to the camera, and they have the upper corner image of the topic they're talking about, and they have the sketch of the rapist, and it's labeled rapist. And the sketch looks like Mark Brown, the guy, the anchor. And this immediately became a big internet sensation. And I remember when that happened. It was hilarious. So anyway, Mark Brown popping up on this little report. It looks like he's lost some weight. And maybe, looks good. Okay, so anyway, back to Newsom here. So Newsom rejects the whole thing with the $1.2 million. What's up, Newsom? I thought you were going to fulfill your promise with the black community. But, it's really not the fact that he said no that is disgusting. It's the fact that he came out and is quoted as saying that this whole thing, dealing with the legacy of slavery, quote, is about much more than cash payments. It just makes me, because saying that it's like the most slimy politician thing you can say, where it's like, look, the government exists to facilitate things for the people. And a lot of times when you're talking about subsidized programs, it's about the redistribution of money. That's what you're there for. Okay. That's what you're there for, Governor Newsom. And I'm not saying I completely support this whole thing with the reparations and it's pretty ridiculous. But in the context of saying no, don't come out and go with the moral, even the more higher moral ground of like, oh, hey, listen, it's not about the cash. It is for like a bunch of people. Okay. So get out of here. All right. Quote, the reparations. This is Newsom again quoted. The reparations task force's independent findings and recommendations are a milestone in our bipartisan effort to advance justice and promote healing. This has been an important process, and we should continue to work as a nation to reconcile our original sin of slavery and understand how that history has shaped our country, Newsom said in a statement to Fox News Digital. While the Democratic governor applauded the task force's work, he declined to endorse any specific recommendations, though he pledged to continue to, quote, advance systemic changes that ensure an inclusive and equitable future for all Californians. What a load of garbage. I am sorry. I'm sorry for being so triggered by this. But, first of all, yes, there was racism and still is in a cultural sense. Yes, there always has been some kind of racial discrimination for as long as we have been around, especially post-flood, post-Tower of Babel. You know, it makes sense. We were all kind of went in our separate ways, and then when we started finding each other again, hey, what's up with you? Why don't you do it like this or whatever? People mad at each other. I get it. Okay, so there's been racism-ish or discrimination, classism. There's been all kinds of issues. But in terms of our current state of the U.S. government, the institution, there is no true and obvious systemic type of issue when it comes to race. The only people that are systemically making things worse in the race divide of this country is people like Newsom, who are stirring up the community, obviously, and playing with their hearts by suggesting, this news about the reparations keeps coming up, and then Newsom just slams on it and says, nah, guys, it's about more than the cash. It's like, are you slimeball? Are you kidding? Anyway, the only systemic change that needs to happen is Newsom being removed from this situation, because clearly he is not advancing anything that provides inclusivity or equitability of the future, even though those terms itself have problems if you're applying it to society in the way that these folks do. But anyway, we're not going to go into the details here. There's no need. But it's just unbelievable, this guy. And, there was somebody in the comments from the last episode, because I had mentioned something about culturally, we're talking about the black community and how I thought it was an indicator, this whole reparations thing and giving all this money to the black community as an indicator of a near future hyperinflationary event, especially in California, which is things are more expensive in places like California or New York or whatever, not because things are more expensive, but because we are experiencing more inflation here than other states. And, it's just how it works. That's why gas is more here and things like that. So it's not just the greed thing, although it is, but there's, more than that going on. But anyway, given that context, the black community receiving up to $1 million, and it's not, it's up to, so there's a lot of people that will receive, it's more like a universal basic income type of situation, payments monthly, things like that. And sure, it might help them live, but if they're already comfortable living, unless there are programs to really facilitate a preservation of wealth, or what I was saying was the development of infrastructure. So, okay, you're going to give money to all these people. Let's help them build our communities with that money instead of just becoming consumers of corporate products or whatever, right? So if there's something in there where it's like, okay, yeah, but let's make it easier to start a business. Let's make it easier to build some kind of thing for the industry. And California is not like that. That's what I was talking about. Culturally, we're not set up here in California and bureaucratically, especially, to allow innovation. Because I'll give you an example. I forget all the correct terminology, but there was a group that was trying to build, I want to call it like a whatever it was. It was turning salt water into usable, like drinking water and stuff like that. I forget what it's called. Maybe somebody in the chat will remember, but they were in conversation, in a back and forth with the California government for like 10 years. 10 years they were like lobbying. I don't know if it was lobbying. It was basically trying to communicate with the government to get the licenses and get the approval to build this thing that's supposed to help with the California water supply. It's been proven to work in other places in the world. And so, hey, let's do it. We can do it here in California. It'll cost a couple billion or whatever, but we can make it work and it'll help us out. Desalination projects. Thank you, James Shrimp in the chats. Yes, desalination. That's it. And California, with this board of 9 or something, they were like, nope. Why? No reason really given. They had some excuse, some garbage excuse. But 10 years, and because of some people that are in their ivory towers don't want the money to go to that. Nope. And that's what I mean. In California, you have an idea, you have some kind of innovation idea that's not like software stuff, because if you're in Silicon Valley, you have a software idea, then, depending on how good the idea is, you might get some funding and mobility, but that's software, it's not like an actual brick and mortar type of business. And so, to get licensing and things like that, and even people that are trying to maybe build facilities or build buildings, or you try to do that in California, you better have a lot of your ducks in a row, and you better have a lot of extra cash to pay for all the licenses and the years and all the time it takes to get approved to build anything. That's what I was talking about. The money is not there to actually help facilitate actual development and mobility for that community. It's going to be given to be consumed by the corporations. It's just helping the California economy stay afloat or appear to be functioning when it's really not. It's government handing out money, and that money being spent so that the data looks good. Oh, look at how much money California spent. Oh, well, how much of that money was government given money? Well, don't worry about it, but your taxes are going up. So, all right. Anyway, and Newsom is just so slimy, man. This guy. I want to make sure we advance the systemic changes. Oh, but what about the cash? It's about more than cash for me, man. Oh boy. All right. Somebody get this guy out of here. All right. One more story, and then we're going to thank some producers, and we will be out of here. Let's see. What is the closest thing I can think of is sewer surveillance.
Hello. I'm the CIA. I love your mass surveillance programs.
Oh, that's not the right one. Which one am I doing here? Yeah, here we go.
We'll control them with toileting.
One way or another, toileting being involved in the future of health. This is coming from Epoch Times, which again is an outlet that is supported by the Guangdong religious, I think they're sort of religious anti-CCP group, which I think, again, is interesting that there is a large new news platform that is connected to the Chinese, but not through the CCP. It's through sort of the anti-CCP group. So you got to kind of pay attention. Yeah, they do cater to more of a right-leaning conservative crowd, but it's just something to keep in mind. So anyway, the headline here, FDA approves first pill containing human feces. Woo! Y'all ready for this? And this image up here of some capsules with it kind of looks like capsules with brown sugar in it, but apparently it's poop. And actually, this story is not that interesting. It really is kind of mundane, but we'll read a little bit of it to get an idea, to burst everybody's bubbles. Patients needing a fecal microbiota transplant from recurrent Clostridioides difficile, C. diff, infections now have the option of getting stool in pill form. What form were they getting it before? I'm just concerned about our current state, where having stool in pill form is progress. What are we doing to people suffering from C. diff infections right now? Maybe somebody in the chat knows what's going on. Maybe I don't want to know. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration recently approved Vowst, the first oral biologic drug for fecal microbiota that was shown in clinical trials to be as effective as fecal microbiota transplants given rectally. Well, I guess we got our answer there. Hey, what? This is... forgive me. Forgive me for pointing it out. But this is the second story, and I did not plan this, okay? Things like this are not planned. But our very first story today talked about the brain-computer interface of a monkey that is inserted into the brain through the brainstem from the lower regions. And maybe the future is that the monkeys just get a pill form to control those robots, to control those flippy arms. Because, man, this just seems very uncomfortable. Biologic drugs are derived from the blood, protein, bacteria, and other living organisms. In traditional fecal microbiota transplants, or FMT, healthy donor stool is transferred into the colon of a patient, usually via colonoscopy or retention enema. Oh, fantastic. I won't go into much more here, but I think we get it. So, hey, maybe the pill is a good idea. But, if you think about the overall psyop of this, right? It's like, hey, if we can get everybody to accept the poo pills to treat for their issues in their body, we'll be able to get them to take pills for anything, right? I mean, we want folks to be in the metaverse and, playing pickleball on the virtual court in the middle of Klaus's Mindscape in some kind of tournament where you win World Economic Forum tokens that you can cash in later. So you can buy some food or a sustenance serum that you can pump right into your vein there, right into the vein, just like how Bill Gates talked about, to keep you alive and your family alive, so that you can continue to work in the metaverse. I don't know. This is the world we're living in, folks. When we started this 10 years ago, if you would have told me we're going to be living in a world of poo pills and monkey brains on VR tech, I would have said 100%. But most people saw me like I had a microchip in my head controlled by a monkey. And now look what's happened. Look what has happened. All right. Here we go. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We appreciate all of you. For those of you joining us late, Basil is out. He is getting his, I almost said he's getting his intestines removed, which is not true. He's not getting his intestines removed. He's getting an appendix, or his appendix taken out, which is, I don't know the details. I will try to report more as I find out more. I have not received any text messages or communications from Basil other than what I got from him last night. So continue praying for him, for his health, and hopefully we'll see him back soon. I don't imagine he'll be here Friday, but he might. I don't know. And there is a possibility that we may not even have a show next Monday, which is the 15th, because I'm starting my move. It's going to be a few weeks of moving and setting up the new office, which again, I'm pretty excited about because it allows me to create a space that's dedicated to the show, but also I'll have my music stuff sort of integrated with it. It will be where I complete Age of Deceit 4, and hopefully I'll be able to produce more content because I'll have less excuses. Let's be honest. I'm going to have my office at home. Right now it's not at home. So that's part of the reason why it's, try to keep work separate from home, and I'll have that a little bit because the office will be in the garage. So that's nice. But, that'll be interesting, by the way. That has been a goal of mine over the last couple of years is to, and the reason why we're so grateful for all of you producers is that this show provides a sort of therapy for people like me and Basil, where we're able to process things happening in the world, in community, in public. So, we might react to something in a pretty ridiculous way or something that may turn out to be less sensational later on. But it just allows us to wade through things and do it together and be reminded that it's really in God's hands, that we're here, we are continuing to see what's happening, what's unfolding, but we know where it's headed. We know what the ultimate plan is, and we know that it's ultimately in the right hands, in the good hands. Of course, bad things are allowed to happen, but only under the provision of God. And so we hold on to hope, and we're kind of in the same way that we were kind of the irrational, crazy ones 10 years ago, talking about AI and transhumanism and VR, psychedelics, and mind uploads and genetic surveillance and all this kind of stuff. In a similar way, now that the world has become that, we have that constant grounded faith where we're just like, we know we can have that joy. We can have the joy of the Lord because we know where this is all headed. And so, it's troubling, but it doesn't just stop there in the troubled state. And then everyone's freaking out because that's what happens, right? You learn about these things that are going on in the world. You start connecting dots and you're like, oh my gosh, I need to tell someone. I need to wake people up. And you have that urge. And then you can fall into a dangerous place where you can go into rabbit trails or fall into different topics and get trapped into certain worldviews or ideologies, which makes you very combative towards people that don't believe that particular brand or narrative. And it gets really messy. So, having it grounded in the word and having it grounded in the truth makes it very simple for us because, we'll talk about anything. We'll talk about anything going on in the world, but we know where it's ultimately headed. And that's why we thank you. And that's why we keep this show value for value, because we can't truly have that foundational thesis of like, hey, we're staying grounded in the word. We will cover the egregious, but we got to stay grounded in the word. We can't do that, or at least Basil and I can't do that. Maybe some people can. And hey, more blessings to you if you can do that, and under the context of corporate sponsorships and advertisements and stuff like that. We just can't because there's something about it, just knowing and seeing how everything operates, and then, just kind of putting out our hand and being like, oh yeah, yes, give us some of the fruits of the beast system. It just doesn't sit well. It's not on brand with our message, so to speak. So I think that's why we've gone value for value, and it allows you, the listener, the viewer, to participate in the decision-making of the existence of the show. Because if the support and the producerships dry up, then no more show. There you go. It's pretty simple. We are not too big to fail. We're not like Vice. We don't anticipate George Soros knocking on our door, offering us $400 million to buy out Canary Cry. Although I will tell you, early on when we started a Canary Cry radio, we started receiving, or at least I did, or maybe I think it was a Canary Cry radio Gmail inbox. We started receiving emails from China. It was really bizarre, and they were trying to get us to release the domain, like Canary Cry Radio and like Canary Cry stuff. They were trying to get us to move off of it. And it was from like a weird Chinese firm. So I feel like they've been kind of watching what we've been, and maybe that's why we've been so suppressed. It's like, You run right into the Chinese overlords who are behind the I don't know, the big tech stuff going on. So anyway, point being, we're here to thank some producers as we move away here and move away. What am I saying? Move on, move forward. We're going to start with a speak pipe.
Please leave a message after the tone.
At the tone, please record your message.
Leave a message. Beep.
Message.
Go to canarycrynewstalk.com. Go to any page on the website and you will see a green tab on the right side. Click on it. It'll give you a little pop-up window that allows you to record a message of up to 90 seconds. If it's a private message, tell us right at the beginning. And that way, if we don't have an opportunity to review the message before we go live, then we will not disclose whatever important information you had to share with us in private. So there you go. Today, I don't think we have any SpeakPipe, or at least we didn't earlier when I checked. And we did miss you. Actually, we did have one, but I believe it was a private message. Oh, let me address. Okay, so we did get a SpeakPipe. I will not play it. They asked it to be private, so we will not disclose who it is from either. But I do want to address it because this person messaged us, very sweet message. Thank you for the message, and mentioned how they were actually suffering from long COVID. And that, we were talking about in the last episode, long COVID, how there's no, the pharmaceutical companies and the governments are both at a sort of stalemate when it comes to this long COVID thing. Nobody's moving on it because there are no ways to measure it. There's no system or dashboard or something that allows people or, the pharmaceutical companies or governments to actually measure long COVID. And we sort of talked about long COVID as a psychological thing, that it's not so much a physical thing, it's a psychological thing. And this person who messaged us was saying that they were actually themselves suffering from long COVID, and that, they had a lot of health problems after getting infected with COVID, and they were not vaccinated, and that her and her, I gave away the gender, I guess, this person and their loved one, both had, were in the hospital and had been going through some things health-wise. And I will say this, that, when we're talking about long COVID in the context of it being a psychological thing and everything else, I think we are addressing it from the mainstream news outlet perspective. That is to say that the news outlets talking about long COVID, because they're unable to point to specific things, it's always kind of anecdotal, like, oh, they're not feeling good, and da-da-da. But there's not like a concrete thing, like this is what determines long COVID. That's why we're saying it seems more of a psychological thing. That being said, I don't think it's impossible for the virus itself, the COVID thing, the flu, whatever it was, the thing that was engineered, I would say, that was out there. And certainly some people got it. I mean, I had it earlier this year. I was 39 at the time. I was about to turn 40. Actually, I think I did turn 40 right when I had it. And yeah, I felt like garbage for a couple days, but I'm not having long-term effects with it. I recovered fairly quickly. But I can understand, depending on your health, your age, there's a lot of different factors. People that got hit with COVID, especially a severe case of it, yeah, you might have some effects later on. And that's why I think, those who talked about it as a potentially engineered type of virus, that's where I think, yeah, it might have been, because, the gain of function research and the Fauci and the NIH and the Wuhan lab and the National Institute of Health funding, the EcoHealth Alliance, all that stuff, yes, they were developing something that causes harm. And so for people to have it, long COVID in the context of a psychological thing could be the fact that, yeah, people are going to have long-term health problems after this. That is maybe the goal, maybe the best outcome for a certain population or targeted population. And then we can make this ambiguous long COVID thing as a news item so that we can push legislation. Oh, we need more research. We need more of this. We need more of that. And so I think it's important to separate what people actually suffered, which this person who messaged us clearly went through some stuff. I think they mentioned how they had suffering from permanent disability, pulmonary embolism, and stuff like that. That's horrific. And we're praying for you. We're praying this anonymous person. Please pray for them. In fact, we'll call upon the producers to this anonymous speak pipe messenger.
Producers, assemble!
I did give away the gender. It's a she, and her husband. Pray for them, for their health, and but they were very grateful for the show, and so thank you again for the message. And I hope this addresses some of what you mentioned in the message without actually playing your message. So thank you for that. But yeah, anytime you have a problem with, cause we're on a microphone, we're on a hot mic live for almost 10 hours a week. And I'm surprised there's not more clips of us just like saying completely ridiculous things that get us either canceled or just upset someone, or, I feel very blessed and even protected in many ways that the Holy Spirit would tug on my shoulder or tap on my shoulder anytime I'm about to say something ridiculous. I do feel that conviction sometimes when I'm about to say something and I go, oh no, I should probably not say that. Thank you, Holy Spirit. Amen. All right. Okay. So that's it for the speak pipe. We do want to thank some producers coming in with their treasure here. It's not a long list, but we are grateful for you. Those of you who have been part of the supply drop and the t-shirt council, thank you very much. I don't think I have 100% access to some of that. So if you did come in on supply drop or the t-shirt council in the last couple days, I may miss you. And whenever Basil comes back, I don't have the full range of access when it comes to some of the accounting with that. So we'll clear things up on Friday or Monday. But there are people to thank here, and there's a couple more that came in. Let me just make sure I get those. We're going to start off with, who is it? Oh, we already thanked our executive producers for this episode, which were Grave Mind and Spiritually Minded. Thank you very much for your executive producerships. And we have some people coming in below the $100 executive producership mark. And we will start with Morgan E. Morgan E comes in. Thank you very much. The amount of, I can't tell. It's around $20, 2053 or 1943. I'm not sure. I don't think there's a note that came with this. I apologize if there was and I missed it. But Morgan E is on a 27 episode streak, which means Morgan E has busted through the firmament.
I know we have still not shattered that highest and hardest glass ceiling, but someday someone will.
Yep. And Morgan E surely did. 27 episodes in a row. Thank you very much. It's very grateful for you. Multiple time executive producer Morgan E. So thank you for being so faithful in that way. Next up, we have Sir Moore of Knight of the Burning Chariots coming in on a 227 episode streak.
Oh yeah, streakalicious.
Wow, that's crazy. So Sir Moore is exactly 200 episodes ahead in the streak compared to Morgan E. Interesting. Maybe Sir Moore left some items for Morgan E to pick up on the path of streaking. Okay. Let's see. Who else did we get? Is that it? Oh my gosh, that might be it. We did have some recurring supporters come in, and I'm not 100% sure if those are new or old. Again, I apologize because some of the back end accounting is stuff that I have not proper access to, or not just access, but I don't know. There's just a lot of organization stuff that happens that I don't always know some of the changes being made. But there you go. Morgany Sir Morv, I think you're it. Above $7.77 for today. Thank you very much. Oh, Sir Morv comes in at 11:11. Grateful for you. Who am I missing? Am I missing someone? Chat. Are you in the chat? If I miss you, please let me know. Okay, people under $7.77. We see you too. Okay, we have Sir Casey the Shield Knight. Yes, Sir Casey the Shield Knight, 295 episodes in a row. We have Dame Gale, Canary Whisper, and Lady of X's and O's, 257 episodes in a row. We have Veronica D, 257 episodes in a row as well. We have Sir Scott, Knight of Truth, 284 episodes in a row. And we also have the Ronin Poet coming in. He's on his 3rd episode in a row, which means Ronin Poet is heating up.
He's heating up.
And for everybody else, you guys are way ahead, over 200 episodes in a row.
Oh yeah, streakalicious.
And as Newsom said,
Women rule.
Unless you're getting reparation money, because apparently then it's not about money. All right, thank you to all the producers coming in with their treasure. We appreciate you. Thank you for your patronage.
Shut up and take my money.
Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage. Thank you for your patronage.
All right, we're going to go right along here. Thanks some producers coming in with their talent. We appreciate all of those who contribute with their God-given talent, helping us build the culture behind the community here at Canary Cry News Talk. We're going to start off with some audio production.
Audio production. Productions.
All right, first up, we have something from Lil Owen. He's a note. It's easy to get overwhelmed by the wiles of the devil. The Lord's Prayer is simple yet profound. We say, Father, deliver us from the evil one. I'll play about 30 seconds. It's about 1:40, this track he sent us. Play about 30 seconds of it, and we'll play the whole thing at the end of the show. Very retro, wavy. Got that chill vibe. Very good. Thank you very much, Little Owen. Appreciate it. And we're going to go right into art.
One art, please.
I normally start with Sir Dove, but today I am going to start with Lil Owen's daughter. Because, Little Owen came in with the audio track, and Little Owen's daughter came in with a sketch of me and Basil. I think I can use this as part of the faces for the thumbnail there. So yeah, very well done. It's got kind of an anime vibe, especially the eyes. Yeah. So for me, there's me on the right side there. Got a little dirt on the face, and the hat and the glasses, and my eyes. These are really anime eyes, really big, shiny. Big, shiny Asian eyes means anime. So, yes, there's that. And then Basil and his googly eyes, but his googly eyes are very realistic. Those are realistic googly eyes. And the anime part for him, I think it's his hair. You can see his headband, but then the hair behind his head really does look like, I don't know, some kind of anime character. So thank you very much to Little Owen's daughter. Appreciate it. And yeah, we'll definitely use this in a thumbnail in the future. Thank you very much. All right. Now we have Sir Dove.
One art piece from Dove.
And Sir Dove. Oh no. What's going on? No, I was not supposed to play that. Okay, sorry. Okay, Sir Dove. As a note, peace for today's artwork. I did another thumbnail duo illustration, hoping you guys like it. Keep doing what you do, and I'll keep praying for Yin's Dove. And yes, Dove. did the Toy Story version. And on the left is Woody, except it's not Woody. It's a giant Basil derpy-eyed bird. He's got the derpy eyes. He's the canary. He's a derpy-eyed canary instead of the head there. Wow. Unbelievable. The badge on Woody, or Basil Woody, says police. Police. Instead of police. And Dove, you do it again. How did you know, Dove? And by the way, just a little behind the scenes, Dove sent these in a batch, or in batches. So he sent in like 2 or 3 episodes worth of art at once. And there's no way he would have known that on this episode, 622, May 10th, that we would have a story about poo pills. And of course, he's got the police badge. Unbelievable. And then his belt buckle, looks like one of those big bronze belt buckles, but the engraving on the buckle is a poo police officer. He's the police, like the poo emoji, wearing some dark shades, a police officer hat, and a big stash. So there you go. Those are some of the details of Basil derpy-eyed bird Woody. And then on the other side, Buzz Gonz Lightyear. I don't know what the exact name is, but it's Buzz Lightyear. But it's me. It's my face instead of the big old chin version that's in the movies. And let's see some of the things. I got the Canary Cry logo in the middle of my chest. That's how I like it. My arm says Flippy Arm. There's a big old sign that says Flippy Arm and a big button. Anything else? Any other little Easter eggs in here? I think that's it. So there you go. Thank you, Sir Dove. Once again, really capturing the essence of the show in such a fantastic way. A Toy Story version of me and Basil. Thank you very much, Sir Dove. All right, we got one more piece of art from Mr. Magoo. That's right, Magoo is back. It's been a while, Mr. Magoo. Here's a note that says, Magoo, the return from the Moognoverse. The Moognoverse. Okay, so we have a piece of paper that tells the story of Magoo the Return. Subtitle, Magoo versus the Mutant Canary. I see. And then on the left here, we have, I think that's Magoo. Yes, it says Magoo in Kung Fu stance. Magoo is drawn as a stick figure in green. I don't know if he's the Hulk or what. He's green. He's got a stash and a beard and same colored hair on top and same colored pants. Interesting. And Magoo is saying super awesome mustache or Magoo stash. Oh, he's not. I'm sorry. He's not saying that. He's pointing to his Magoo stash. Yes. And below Magoo is Kitty Sidekick. Meows is Yowzers. Okay. And then in the middle is a giant hybrid canary. Oh, it's a Gonz clone. Oh, is Gonz clone part of the canary? Mutant canary? I don't know what's going on. It looks like there's a mutant canary. It's got a humongous tongue that's got all kinds of weird parts to it. And then out of the other side, there's 2 heads of the canary, but 3 eyes, of course, because it's a mutant. But then off the side, kind of like some kind of growth on the side of the mutant canary, is the Gonz clone. I don't like that. That's terrifying and disturbing. And then in the bottom right corner is, I think that's me and Basil. And Basil is labeled as Sweet Man Bun because I think he still is man bun capable. And it's got a little speech bubble that says, "Help us, Magoo! Mutant Canary took over News Talk." And once again, maybe Magoo might be sort of prophetic too in the way that Dove was. that, the Gon's clone took over. Basil goes into some kind of surgical state. And then Gons comes in and destabilizes the Canarium and doing a solo show, changing up the format, looking at the different things going on the screen. And yes, you must call upon the Magoo because the mutant Canary has taken over. Thank you very much, Mr. Magoo. Appreciate you. Good to see you again. I am just double checking real quick. Yes. Okay. We have a couple of, what are they called? Microfiction.
Microfiction. Microfiction.
And this first one is by Rung Smash. I will do my best. Microfiction speech. He watches the like meter on his HUD go from a solid 60% green to a big red lightsaber. He is furious as he gathers his cobots. His anger grows as the young woman leaps on stage, but is soon replaced with fear as his feed is overcome by the censors. Very nice. There's a PS. I wonder if that's still part of the microfiction. There you go. Thank you very much, Rung Smash. And there's some interesting, dare I call it, data science or data gathering of the actual Rung Smash microfiction going on. And so we will we'll maybe present that in the future. But it's very interesting. Some fascinating stuff. Thank you very much, Rung Smash. Appreciate you. We also have a microfiction from Stefan S.
Steven!
Or Stefan. Or Steven? Stefan? Steven Stefan. In the Buy My Text marketing meeting for animatronic deities, the temples need incentive to jump. The god's verbal response needs to be directly tied to our AI chat engine, but its clarity would be directly related to their digital donation platform. Yes. We get to continue to get insight from the Buy My Tech marketing meeting. Very good. Yes, the animatronic deities. They need to be directly connected. There needs to be an economic incentive built into these machines, or else it's a pointless endeavor. It just becomes art. And even then, you should give it money because it's beautiful art. All right. Thank you very much to all the producers coming in with their talent. We appreciate you. And again, I know it's a little bit of a weird format today, but it is what it is. And now we get to thank our producers coming in with their time, starting with the Clippies. Clippy on those videos. Thanks. Thank you to Emsworth, Faye Liverin, Jolmes, and Laura. Appreciate you all for participating in the clipping. And by the way, part of the reason why we may change the visual format, the way you're seeing it if you're watching the show, how for those of you just listening, what's happening is the screen is sort of takes up a majority of the space here, but on the right side there's a column that has me, Basil when he gets back, the chats from Rumble, and the what's it called? Conglomerate chat, the aggregated chat, that's the word, from DLive and the YouTube channel, as well as, I think that's it maybe, or the Twitch maybe is in there too. So there's that, and then some other things on the bottom, Chiron there. But it allows us to, at least for me and Basil, have a vertical, formatting, positioning, which has become more important as, video goes vertical, or, people watching on their phones, basically. So it's just something to make it easier for perhaps the Clippies to clip out certain segments and not have to edit it too much, where, Basil and I are both in the shot. And right now, the way we had it before, we're split screen on either side, and it just wasn't conducive to creating shorts. So that's something that we're exploring. Again, this may change again in the future. There's, I may get hate mail from Basil and Basil supporters on go back to the normal way. But anyway, there's that. Thank you very much to the Clippies. And I know we are well on our way to opening that thing back up and publishing more on it and trying to get out there. So thank you very much. All right, timestamp. The Clippies, jobs not possible without timestampers.
Timestamp. It's hard work. Timestamp.
Yeah, we want to specifically thank, let me just double check here because I don't want to provide false information. Jade Bouncerson for doing our last episode, Mental Engineering. Thank you very much, Jade Bouncerson. And I believe I did see a couple emails come in with people that were interested in pitching into doing some timestamp work for us. And I'm also seeing another executive producer. You know what? Executive producer who came in a little later. We'll get you on Friday because, we were supposed to do a CCR maybe, but there's some scheduling conflicts with guests and stuff, and things weren't coming together for CCR. So we may do a CCNT this Friday, especially because there might be some days off next week depending on everything going on. So, yeah, for sure we'll get you on Friday to the person who came in and probably didn't hear their name on executive producerships and was wondering why. That is why. So sorry about that. Okay, where was I? I was trying to... Oh, timestampers, yes. Thank you to Jade Bouncerson. Oh, I was talking about the emails coming in from people who want to support with contributing to that. We will facilitate the connections to make that happen. So thank you very much. Reviews. Yeah, there are ways. Word of mouth is really the only way to get out there nowadays. And, I guess you can have millions of dollars to do a 30-second ad at the Super Bowl, but for the rest of normal humans, not lizard people, doing things like leaving a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts does do a lot in getting the show out there. And we appreciate those who leave little tidbits. We got one here. Maybe we read this one already, but I'll read it again. From Chris, 34366347448. Great show. Helps me keep up to date with current events in a very fun, light format. That's the goal, really. The world is troublesome enough. There's a lot of nonsense happening out there. There's a lot to be upset about. But we're here. We're trying to provide a place where you can get that information, get the news on what's happening, but not be in that state of like, I need to tell someone. We got to, and just calm down. It's okay. Jesus got this. And let's laugh about the absurdities because it's really all we can do. Also, a new review from Peter One Piper. Great show. I've completely shut myself off all other sources of outside stimulus. This show is all I need. Wow, Peter Piper. I mean, hey, I'm flattered. Praise the Lord. And yeah, I mean, if we are able to just be your bridge to the crazy world of news, we're doing our job. We're doing our job. If you're still watching Fox, parentheses, Dad, well, just stop. Stop it. Or I guess stop it. STAHP. Emphasis on the stop. Peter One Piper's dad, you've been called out by your son, I think, here, Peter, for watching Fox News. And, if you want to watch Fox News, you can do that. You know who else watches Fox News every single night? Gavin Newsom. And Newsom said that there were staff that were trying to have an intervention with Gavin because he was so obsessed with what the evil right was saying. And if Gavin Newsom is hooked on Fox for all the reasons against the people who would support that narrative, what does that say about the people who support the narratives that are driven by Fox? Just be careful. Just be careful, Dad. Just get your news, but just remember, Fox is owned by a large, wealthy individual It's funded from on high. It's all part of the same system as CNN and all that. So just keep that. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention it today, but Trump is supposed to be on CNN tonight, which is just right. There's a brain explosion, and I think he truthed about it. How he's like, "Oh, we're gonna be on CNN. Might be a bad idea. We'll find out." Back to the note here, or the review. These guys devote their lives to scrutinizing the current events of the day. Do I have time to do this for myself? Of course I do. These guys did all the data collecting for us. They don't connect dots here. They do point the dots out, though. Oh, yeah. Thank you for that. Yeah, there's I'm sorry to be dissecting this review, but I think there's some good points being brought up because, in one context, you give the horse water, right? You give a certain community of a certain racial status money. You give them money. You give them what they want, which is great, but it's not sustainable. The real way is to provide an example. The real way is to show the horse how to go to the river or whatever and teach him where he can find water, right? Or the fishing analogy is the same thing, right? You could teach, you can give a man fish, but if you teach a man to fish, you can eat forever. Same kind of deal. I think what we're doing here is we're trying to provide something where we show how to kind of analyze, how to think about what's going on out there in the news. We're not exactly telling you what to think or what to believe or agree with everything we say, but more so, hey, here's what's going on. Here's what we see. Here's how we can kind of break down the pieces and ask appropriate questions. And as you kind of get used to doing that, you start doing that with everything. And of course, there's an unhealthy version of that too. So I'm not saying you can do it with everything, but just understanding that, the normal consumption being had by the general public, they're being fed certain things that ought to be identified, that ought to be called out or questioned. And if you start learning how to do that, then you're able to do that all the time. And you're able to not be so carried away by certain narratives and stuff that's presented. You can kind of start to piece things together. So I like that. I like the idea that we're pointing out the dots. We're not necessarily connecting it. You can go do your own dot connecting. The review continues. I've loved the content these two guys have been putting together for more than a decade. Quote, or in parentheses, hey, remember getting teased about getting news from podcasts. Now the mainstream news and basically the whole political world is a lie. It's nice to have eyes that see and ears that hear. Basil and Gons are two brothers in Christ that I'm glad to see are still willing and able to stand up and fight. Amen and amen. Thank you very much for the great review here. I appreciate the kind words, and hopefully, this inspires someone to check out the show. All right, that's it for the reviews. What else do we got? I think we covered everything there's to cover on a Gons solo show, where, man, we still went pretty long. I always think there's only one of us here, so we'll definitely, whenever I do solo, we'll definitely get done in like an hour and a half, right? But for some reason, when I'm doing solo, I just talk a lot more. Just keep ranting on and on and on about whatever we're talking about. So, but anyway, please share the show with friends, family, people that you might think can get something out of it. Again, a point of reference can be, hey, check these guys out. They exist only because the people want them to exist. They don't exist because they have some kind of crazy sponsorship from the government or from a product or something like that. We're, totally independent. We're trying to be as independent as possible. And so if you want to support true independent media analysis, then please consider doing that. And again, one way you could do that is to share the show, get other people to check it out, and pop in and out. We're not here. We're not supposed to be like, hey, there are a few who listen to every single show, every single minute. And those are you guys are the champions. You guys are the ones that are, you maybe even call it like the inner circle or something. You guys are up to speed on everything. It's almost like you're hanging out with us. We're just friends. They're hanging out talking about this. And then there are others, and rightfully so, There are others who pop in and out, come check out certain things, and maybe they had the episode title intrigues them. They'll check out an episode, but they, go back to life, and we expect that. We actually encourage that. We encourage people to live their lives, and we'll try to be here whenever you need a place to talk about or hear about certain issues, and you want to know more, or you want to find the resources or whatever it may be. We're trying to provide that for you. So again, if you get the value out of it, please consider providing value back. That's how this thing works. Spread the show, share it with friends, families, cats and dogs, and any kind of animals. I think we will see more animal brain data surveillance, or brain surveillance data rather. And I think we will start to understand that a certain population of animals are white supremacists, neo-Nazis, because they've been exposed to content like maybe Tucker Carlson, or maybe there's a farmer who blasted InfoWars into his barn. And so all the chickens in the barn just became white supremacist neo-Nazis. And they need to make sure to create a food shortage of some kind to eliminate the white supremacist chickens. So I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. Basil's the one that does this off the top of his head and comes up with the wild stories and analogies. And when I try to do it, it's brain data white supremacist chickens who have too much, or hey, maybe the other way around. Maybe the emus on certain farms, they're getting the 24/7 CNN feed into their brain, and so they are hyper liberal progressives that love Don Lemon and are outraged about the recent firing of the foundation of cable news media. All right. Anyway, yeah. Again, if you have a problem with anything I did today, email Basil. Tell him it's a crisis. Tell him it's chaos. Tell him that we need him back to restore some order. Otherwise, it's Gons' nonsense age of deceit party over here. So there you go. Thank you to all who have been with us from the beginning and are here for the first time. Appreciate you. If you don't know what else to do, we call it rattling cages. Here are the steps.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Hey, stop that! You'll never silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
The human race will have every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Ask Noah.
That's right. Ask Noah. He was there 600 years before the flood, 350 years after. And it's going to be like the days of Noah when Jesus comes back. And it seems like it's becoming more and more of that. All right. We'll see you all on Friday. If there's any update on Basil, we will let you know. And yeah, thank you guys for being here. Hope you got something out of today's show. See you again on Friday, episode 623. Have an awesome day. God bless, and think outside the cage.
I've ordered more pills than anyone in the world.
Do not come back, you Nazi psychopaths.
This is not about freedom or personal choice.
Armageddon's on the way.
Give me a break.
This is the United States of America, for God's sake.
I love the Great Reset.
I'll keep you warm and safe in my people's zoo.
Remember, reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold. Buy! goodbye, everybody, and that's the end. And everyone says, oh, that was fun. Bye-bye, bye-bye. I'm out of here. Bye.
CanaryCryRadio.com/support.